Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Issei was a reincarnated immortal sovereign. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Issei, a young man with brown hair, found himself alongside his friends watching the kendo girls in the locker room. He expressed his concern about getting caught again, attributing it to their reckless behavior. Motohama pointed out that Issei spoke too loudly, while Matsuda simply nodded in agreement. Just as Issei was about to respond, someone outside alerted them to a noise, suggesting it was those troublemakers again. Without wasting any time, the three of them dashed away from the scene. Matsuda apologized to Issei, who was still trying to comprehend the situation. Motohama added that they would miss him. In a sudden turn of events, they pushed Issei to the ground and fled at high speed, leaving him feeling betrayed. As Issei attempted to get up, he found himself surrounded by several girls from the kendo club. He quickly declared his innocence, claiming he hadn't seen anything. Murayama, one of the girls, chastised him for using the same excuse repeatedly, while Keitase questioned why he couldn't be more like his brother. Issei felt a twinge of annoyance at the comparison but managed to smile at the group. He remarked that life was about having fun. Murayama then playfully struck him with her wooden sword, and soon the other members joined in. After a few minutes, they ceased their playful assault and left him with some bruises and scrapes. The bell rang, signaling the end of the break, and everyone returned to their classes except for one person lying on the ground. Issei sighed, wondering why he continued to associate with those troublemakers. He finally stood up, feeling fatigued and unwilling to visit the infirmary, so he decided to head home, leaving his belongings behind in the classroom. As he walked through the city, he noticed people murmuring about his appearance, many assuming he was a delinquent. Issei paid little attention and made his way to the nearest park, where he took a seat near a bench and let out a deep sigh. He pondered why he was always compared to his brother, feeling the weight of expectations from his family. He knew his brother was intelligent, popular, and athletic, while he struggled to stand out. Even his parents compared them. As he reflected on this, a tear slipped down his cheek. Exhausted from the constant comparisons, he lifted his gaze to the sky, realizing it was getting late but choosing to remain seated for a while longer. Hours passed, and Issei remained in place, attracting curious glances from passers-by, but he paid them no mind. Eventually, he decided to head home. However, as he walked, it began to rain, yet he continued on his path. In the distance, he spotted his parents and was about to approach them when he noticed his brother joining them, and the three of them left together, laughing. Issei felt a pang of disappointment and chose to turn away, wandering aimlessly until he found himself in a forest. Unaware of his surroundings, he walked for a while until he reached a small hill that offered a beautiful view of the woods. A smile crept onto his face as he sat down, and by then, the rain had stopped. He enjoyed the serene atmosphere for several minutes until he decided it was time to head home. However, as he stood up, the ground beneath him began to crack, and before he could react, he fell over the edge of a cliff. Upon hitting the ground, he felt several bones break but remained somewhat conscious. He whispered a wish for a happier next life and a loving family. After a moment, he coughed up a bit of blood, and within a few minutes, he succumbed to his injuries. Suddenly, he opened his eyes, and his body felt whole again as if nothing had happened. Rising to his feet, he examined his hands in disbelief. As he took a step, memories flooded back, overwhelming him. After processing the information, he realized he was Hayate Issei and acknowledged that his previous life had not been kind, despite his attempts to appear happy. He felt a sense of relief, knowing he could finally rest and that in his new life, he would find happiness. With a calm expression, he began walking home, reflecting on his past. He recalled that he had once been known as Chin Fan, a cultivator who had reached great heights, earning the title of Immortal Sovereign. Unfortunately, he had fallen due to divine retribution, having cultivated too quickly without establishing a solid foundation, which his heart could not withstand. Now, he had a chance to restart and cultivate at a steadier pace, returning to where he belonged. Stopping in his tracks, He gazed up at the sky and remarked that this planet was merely a grain of sand. After that thought, he resumed his journey home. Upon arriving, he found the lights were off, but he entered easily with his key. He took off his shoes and headed to his room to grab some clothes before heading to the bathroom for a shower. Afterward, he looked at himself in the mirror and resolved to strengthen himself, realizing that the boy's memories showed he hadn't engaged in much physical activity. Dressed and ready, he returned to his room, determined to restart his cultivation the next day. He recalled a suitable spot in the forest and anticipated a long day ahead. With that thought, he closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep. The next morning at 5 o'clock, he changed clothes and set off toward the forest. Upon arrival, he settled near a tree, crossing his legs to concentrate. He recalled the 8 stages of cultivation, which included qi condensation, xiantian, core formation, nascent soul, spirit separation, void return, Tao fusion, and lasting retribution. Although qi condensation was just the initial stage, it comprised 3 smaller phases: foundation establishment, deep opening, and marine spirit. The foundation establishment was the first stage of cultivation, allowing cultivators to lift hundreds of pounds, run as fast as a horse, break their physical limits, condense true essence, draw talismans, and perform some magic. He opened his eyes, contemplating which path to take for establishing his foundation. He closed his eyes again, recalling the countless secret arts he had gathered over the past 100,000 years, having collected 1,400 methods for foundation establishment alone. Alongside his regrets, he recognized another important reason for his journey. The reason Issei fell during the distribution was that his foundation was not stable enough. Although the establishment stage of the foundation is crucial for cultivators, it may not seem very important at first. However, only with a solid base can one build a skyscraper. After searching through many techniques, Issei finally found one that resonated with him and decided to pursue it. He began his cultivation journey. Hours passed as he focused intently on his practice. The art of refining the empty body was truly the #1 method for establishing foundations in the world. He entered the initial stage of foundation establishment during his first attempt at cultivation. He felt a surge of power coursing through him. Rising to his feet, he stretched his fist and struck a nearby tree. The impact left a significant dent in the trunk. Issei realized that this power was entirely physical. Incredible! After that, Issei's stomach growled, prompting him to head home for something to eat after spending several hours without a meal. Upon arriving at his house, Issei went straight to the kitchen, where 2 adults and another young man were present. Ignoring them, he prepared something to eat and sat down at the table in silence. Kenji, noticing Issei's unusual quietness, observed him closely. Kenji remarked that it was strange for Issei not to be making a fuss as he usually did. Issei continued to focus on his meal, which slightly irritated Kenji since he felt ignored. Just as Kenji was about to speak, Issei preempted him by stating that it was rude to talk while eating. This surprised everyone at the table. Garu commented on Issei's hypocrisy, pointing out that he was often the one causing chaos. Miki added that she had received a call from the academy informing her that Issei had missed his last classes. Issei explained that he hadn't been feeling well. As he glanced at the 2 adults and then back at Kenji, he sensed something unusual about Kenji. Issei thought to himself that Kenji's energy felt strange and dark, unlike any cultivator he had encountered before. After finishing his dinner, Issei excused himself and headed to his room. Once inside, he began to reflect on his situation and realized he needed to return to the academy. He decided to go since he had nothing else to do and needed to find resources to enhance his cultivation. The next day, Issei made his way to the academy. Thanks to his cultivation, his physique had improved. He was no longer as thin as before. While walking, he was lost in thought until he heard someone call out from a distance. Turning around, he saw 2 young men approaching. Issei thought that they were supposed to be his friends, but he considered them more like troublemakers and decided to keep his distance to avoid any issues. He stood there for a moment until they reached him. Motohama asked why Issei hadn't come the previous day, claiming he had a surprise for him. Matsuda suggested it might have been due to the girl's scolding. Issei candidly told them that they only hung out with him because the girls from Kendo left him alone. Matsuda warned him that there were always dangers. Issei firmly stated that they should not talk to him anymore. After saying this, he resumed his walk to school, leaving the two young men surprised. As Issei approached the entrance, he sensed two dark energies again, noticing they came from two girls at the academy. He wondered who they were and decided he needed to investigate to avoid future problems. Passing by them, he nodded in acknowledgement as a sign of respect. While walking through the hallways, he overheard whispers from other students, prompting him to let out a sigh. He thought they were just kids. Upon entering his classroom, he took a seat and waited for class to begin. A girl approached him, commenting that he seemed unusually calm. Issei replied that he had things to do and no time for nonsense. The girl noted how serious he had become overnight, asking if something had happened. Issei simply stated that he was seeing reality clearly. Seconds later, the bell rang, and the teacher entered, announcing a test since it was exam day. Issei picked up his paper and found the questions to be trivial. He thought to himself that these problems were meant for children. Without much effort, he solved them and, in 3 minutes, stood up to hand his paper to the teacher. The teacher initially thought Issei hadn't understood the material. Issei insisted he was done. The teacher, slightly annoyed, doubted him, but upon reviewing the paper, he was astonished to find everything correct. After several hours of classes, lunchtime arrived. Issei left the classroom and walked to a quieter area to meditate and enhance his cultivation. Meanwhile, the two troublemakers were watching the Kendo girls until someone noticed them and chased after them. As they ran, they spotted Issei and grinned, approaching him to blame him for their predicament. Issei remained focused on his meditation, not paying much attention to their antics. However, he soon sensed their presence nearby and opened his eyes. He asked if they needed something from him. Keitase accused him of pretending to be oblivious, claiming they knew what he had done with the two troublemakers. Issei clarified that he had been there the whole time. Murayama accused him of lying. Issei suggested that if they didn't want to be spied on, they should cover up the hole nearby to avoid more trouble, or perhaps they enjoyed the attention. The Kendo girls were offended by his remark. Issei added that he was no longer associated with the two troublemakers, so if they wanted to confront someone, it should be them, not him. Murayama, frustrated, raised her wooden sword to strike him, but Issei caught it with his hand. He told her that she was delusional if she thought she was anything special. They were just ordinary people. He then broke the sword into several pieces and walked away. Issei reflected on his many years of experience and the beautiful people he had known, which the Kendo girls could never imagine. The Kendo girls were left speechless by what Issei had done with Murayama's sword. Later, Issei sat in his English class, contemplating where he could find resources beyond just money. He sighed deeply, realizing he had many tasks ahead of him to return. Suddenly, he was called over the intercom by the student council. The teacher sent him to the council room. Upon arriving, he knocked on the door and was allowed in. He sensed the same dark energy from everyone present and took a seat. Issei asked what Sona wanted. Sona informed him that he had caused a significant problem during lunch. Issei insisted there was a misunderstanding. He had merely defended himself against that girl. Sona reminded him that he knew what he had. Issei maintained that he had done nothing wrong and had been calm until the girls started insulting him. He suggested that they should punish the other two instead of him. Saji warned Issei that he was being disrespectful to Sona and advised him to apologize. Issei had not disrespected anyone. In fact, he felt he was being accused without evidence. Sona intervened, insisting that they stop. Issei, feeling frustrated, stated that if that was all, he could leave. Sona noticed a change in him, asking what had happened, as he was not like this before. Issei replied that he had stopped acting foolishly and started to think more seriously. He stood up from his seat and walked toward the exit, leaving a silence in the room as everyone sensed his transformation in just one day. As Issei made his way home, it was already late since he had spent extra time at the academy reviewing books. Passing through a park, he noticed a group with 2 boys and a girl. He paid them no mind and continued on his path. Suddenly, the girl called out for help, but one of the boys told her to be quiet and mind her own business. Issei paused and turned around, telling the girl not to act innocent, as he knew she was strong enough to defend herself. After saying this, he resumed walking. The girl, surprised by his confidence, felt an intriguing aura around him. She decided to confront him, striking both boys before chasing after Issei. Within moments, she caught up to him. She asked him to stop, and he inquired if she needed something. She was curious about how he had recognized her strength, as she sensed nothing unusual about him. Issei admitted he was wondering the same about her. She insisted on asking first, and he responded that he was just someone who had trained a bit. She introduced herself as Elisa Bale, a demon, which caught Issei off guard since he hadn't expected to encounter demons in this place. He asked if she knew Sona Shirtorai and Rias Gremri. Elisa confirmed that Sona was a childhood friend and Rias was her cousin. Issei understood now why they had such strong energies. Elisa then questioned whether he was aware of the supernatural, to which Issei admitted it was all new to him, despite having seen many things. Elisa remarked that she didn't perceive him as particularly strong, and Issei teased that he might be stronger than she thought. She decided to test his abilities, placing her school bag on the ground and taking a fighting stance. Issei sighed, set his bag down, and picked up a stick from the ground. Elisa was taken aback, but before she could react, he flicked the stick, grazing her cheek. She was shocked to see blood and asked how he had done that. Issei explained it was just a small technique of chi condensation, nothing special. Elisa found this interesting and admitted she liked him, to which Issei replied that it was strange for someone to enjoy being hurt. She clarified that it wasn't about that. Rather, no one had harmed her in a long time, aside from her brother. Issei expressed understanding and asked how she had achieved her level of power. She downplayed it, saying it was nothing significant, but then mentioned she had to leave soon. Curious about her situation, Issei learned that she lived alone while her family resided in the underworld. She could only communicate with her brother, as her father was always busy and her mother had been in a coma for some time. Issei sympathized with her, and Elisa explained that her family had never accepted her mother and brother because her brother had been born without the power of destruction. Her mother had protected him, but eventually fell ill and into a coma. Issei recognized the weight of her story and noted that she was a good person despite being a demon. He offered to help her if she wanted. Elisa was surprised and asked if he meant it. Issei assured her he never lied, but he needed to see her mother to understand how to help. Elisa agreed, asking when he would be available. He told her to call him whenever, but they needed to keep their meeting discreet to avoid drawing attention. Elisa took down his number, promising to contact him with the details. They parted ways, and upon arriving home, Issei went straight to his room to continue his training. 3 days later, during lunch, he received a call from Elisa asking if he could meet that afternoon. He agreed to see her at the same place. After their brief conversation, Issei returned to class. When the day ended, he arrived at their meeting spot to find Elisa already waiting. She explained that she had been delayed while finding a quick way for them to travel. Issei inquired if it was illegal, and she confirmed it was. He understood and was ready to go. Elisa nodded and created a magic circle, teleporting them to her mother's house. Upon arrival, the place was empty as Elisa had prepared everything. She led Issei to her mother's room, where she lay resting. Issei approached her, took her hand, and checked her pulse. After a brief examination, he concluded that it was not impossible to help her. Elisa was filled with joy at this news. Issei mentioned he would need some specific items and asked if she could gather them. Elisa promised to find whatever he needed without hesitation. He requested paper and a pencil, which she quickly retrieved. After a few minutes, he handed her a list of items, which she looked over with curiosity, though she didn't question it too much. Issei instructed her to call him once she had everything, and he would take the necessary steps to help her mother. Elisa agreed to do it as soon as possible. Elisa agreed to help Issei return home. She created a magical circle that sent only him back, as he wanted to be with his mother. Upon arriving home, Issei noticed that the others were absent but didn't mind since they weren't his family. 6 days later, he received a call from Elisa, and they met at the same place. She informed him that it had been challenging to find the necessary items, but she had succeeded. Issei assured her that what mattered was that she had everything needed and asked her to return the next day when he would have everything ready. The following day was Saturday, and Issei called Elisa to meet early. He handed her a small vial containing several pills, explaining that there were 10 in total and she should give her mother one each day for her recovery. Elisa understood that her mother would wake up after the first pill but would be weak, so she needed to prepare water and light food. Issei cautioned her not to tell anyone who had provided the pills, as he wanted to avoid any trouble. Elisa agreed, mentioning she could tell her mother, and Issei permitted it, but only her. Before leaving, Elisa hugged Issei and hurried back to the underworld, eager to see her mother. Upon arrival, she rushed to her mother's room. The butler was surprised to see her without prior notice, but Elisa expressed her desire to see her mother. The butler understood and allowed her to proceed. Before entering the room, Elisa grabbed a jug of water and some light soup from the kitchen. Once inside, she locked the door for privacy and took out the vial, giving her mother one of the pills, hoping it would work. Minutes passed, and Elisa noticed her mother moving her hand slightly. She called out to her mother, who gradually opened her eyes and saw her daughter, tears in her eyes but smiling. Misla commented on how much Elisa had grown. Unable to contain her emotions, Elisa hugged her mother gently, careful not to hurt her. After the embrace, they both sat down, though Misla struggled a bit. Elisa offered her some water and helped her eat, as she was still weak. Misla was confused about how she had awakened, and Elisa explained that a friend had helped her. Misla was astonished that someone could achieve such a feat, and Elisa revealed that the friend's name was Issei, who was around her age, possibly younger. Misla was surprised that a young person had assisted her. Elisa clarified that Issei did not possess a powerful sacred gear. He was just a human who managed to help her mother with ease, asking only for some ingredients. Elisa insisted that Misla promise not to tell anyone about their conversation, as Issei wanted to avoid any issues. Misla agreed but expressed her desire to meet Issei in person to thank him. Elisa suggested they could visit him once her mother was fully recovered, but they needed to think of a plausible explanation for her sudden awakening. Misla smiled, and they began brainstorming ideas together. When the family learned of Misla's awakening, they were surprised but overjoyed. Saror couldn't help but cry tears of joy at seeing his mother again. Gradually, the news spread throughout the underworld, and several of Misla's friends came to visit her. Venelana expressed her happiness at Misla's recovery, while Anna mentioned that they had missed her and had come to see her during their free time. Misla thanked them for visiting and asked about their children. Venelana shared that Surzek was doing well, and Rias was engaged. Misla inquired about the engagement, and Anna explained that Rias was engaged to her son, Riser, as decided by the council. Misla expressed concern about Riser's changes over time, hoping that Rias wouldn't suffer. Anna reassured her that they were working on it. Misla was pleased to hear about her children, and Anna updated her on Ruvel and Rosalind, who enjoyed traveling in the human world. They continued to chat for hours, sharing updates and stories. Meanwhile, Issei was in the forest, meditating to increase his cultivation level. During his meditation, he sensed several presences approaching him and soon found himself surrounded. One demon asked if they needed something, to which another replied that they were hungry and he could serve as a snack while they looked for more. The others laughed at this, but Issei remained calm, unfazed by the situation. Issei felt a surge of determination as he prepared to confront the challenges ahead. Without wasting any time, he launched himself into action. He remained still for a moment, but when the attack came, he moved with incredible speed, swiftly overcoming all obstacles in his path. He thought to himself about how easily these weaklings dared to challenge him. Afterward, he picked up his bag and headed home, as his day had not gone as planned. Upon arriving home, he followed his usual routine. He went to his room, changed, took a bath, and finally headed downstairs for dinner. Kenji remarked that he had finally given up his perverted phase, while Mickey added that he had taken too long to stop those antics, which only tarnished the reputation of their family. Kenji questioned if Issei was pretending to gain attention, but Issei remained silent, indifferent to their chatter. After years of experience, He had learned that a cultivator must possess a high tolerance for the foolishness of lesser beings. After finishing dinner, Issei stood up without saying a word to anyone, which only served to irritate Kenji. He left the dining room and retreated to his room to continue his cultivation in peace. In his room, Issei focused on his cultivation. He felt that tonight he would enter the intermediate stage of foundation establishment. Fortunately, he had saved some pills he had improved for himself. As he consumed the pills, he could feel his body beginning to strengthen. He realized he had finally reached the intermediate stage of foundation establishment, and a slight smile appeared on his face. The next day, as he walked to school, he noticed that he was attracting some attention due to his physical changes. Upon arriving at the academy, he took his seat, and two classmates approached him. Motohama insisted that he join them during recess, but Issei firmly told them to leave him alone. Matsuda, surprised, suggested it must be a joke, but Issei's serious demeanor frightened them, and they quickly backed away. The other students were astonished by his sudden change in attitude. After classes, Issei stepped outside but paused as he sensed several presences nearby. He recognized one as Kenji's and assumed the others were part of his group. Curious about the demons of this world, he climbed a tree to observe the situation. Razor, a powerful figure, boasted about his strength, while Kenji declared he would fight for Rias, who would always stand by him. Issei listened intently, noting that Razor claimed to be an immortal bird. He thought to himself that, for a phoenix, Razor seemed rather weak compared to others he had encountered in his long life. He watched as Razor sent Kenji crashing against a wall, but before the fight could escalate, Graphia intervened to stop it. Issei recognized her strength and concluded that if she was that powerful, there must be others like her in this world. He decided it was time to leave, but Graphia sensed someone watching them, though she could not identify who or what it was. She chose to focus on her duties instead. As Issei walked home, he remained oblivious to his surroundings until someone grabbed his shoulder. It was Elisa, who commented on his intense focus. He explained he was deep in thought and asked her who the strongest individuals in this world were. Elisa listed several notable figures, including Fenrir, Hades, and the current Mao Lucifer, Surzek, among others. Issei found the information intriguing and requested a favor from her, to gather some books and ingredients for him. Elisa agreed, noting that she owed him for his help. Issei handed her a list of what he needed, and although she found it confusing, she promised to keep it. He thanked her and assured her he would repay her when he could. Elisa then proposed that he join her group, suggesting that she could reincarnate him as a demon, which would enhance his abilities. Issei politely declined, expressing his love for freedom. Curious about the Phoenix family, he learned they were highly respected in the underworld and produced valuable phoenix tears. He asked Elisa if she could obtain one for him, wanting to understand its properties. She agreed, warning him that they were expensive, but he reassured her that it would be no problem for her. After a couple of days, Issei had received everything he requested from Elisa and was now reading in his room. He marveled at the fascinating aspects of this world and realized he needed to improve to defend himself against any potential threats. He examined the vial containing the Phoenix Tear, noting it only provided a modest boost. He thought that if he had the right ingredients, he could create something far more effective. Feeling restless after spending the day catching up on supernatural knowledge, he decided to take a walk outside. As night fell, he wandered the streets until a stranger approached him, suggesting they have some fun together. Issei dismissed the individual, calling them disgusting. The demon, angered, threatened him, but Issei remained unfazed, maintaining his neutral expression. When the demon attacked, Issei effortlessly dodged the strike. The demon mocked him for being a mere human without weapons, but Issei activated a sword made purely of chi, surprising the demon with its power. Issei felt a surge of power as he confronted the demon, who, startled, began to flee. With a swift strike, Issei dispatched the demon effortlessly. He expressed his disdain for arrogant individuals before continuing on his path, having nothing else to do in that place. Upon returning home, he resumed reading to catch up on his studies until he received a call. Elisa informed him that she had gathered all the ingredients he requested and would deliver them the next day. Issei thanked her and inquired about the difficulty of acquiring them. Elisa explained that she had to send several of her servants to different countries and some ingredients were quite expensive. Issei acknowledged her efforts and expressed his gratitude, revealing that he intended to use the ingredients to enhance his strength, noting the presence of many powerful individuals in the world. Elisa agreed but reminded him that, for now, there were no wars. Issei remarked that there would always be conflicts, to which Elisa hoped they would never have to fight, as she disliked violence. They wished each other a good night before ending the call, leaving Issei to ponder the impending chaos that loomed over the world. As Issei walked through the streets, he headed to Elisa's place to collect the ingredients for his pills. While passing by a shop, he noticed something intriguing and decided to enter. He stood before what appeared to be a jade stone. The shopkeeper approached him, expressing interest in the rare rock. Issei thought to himself that the shopkeeper might not realize the true value of jade and how it could be refined. He asked the price, and the shopkeeper replied that it was only 1,000 yen, as not many were interested in such stones. Issei nodded, paid the amount, and returned home. Once there, he began refining the jade, contemplating that it could be used to create a powerful magical weapon, but he needed to focus on raising his cultivation first, so he set it aside for later. Meanwhile, in the underworld, a group of girls gathered for tea. Elisa remarked on how long it had been since they were all together. Sona explained that they had been busy, while Rosalind mentioned her frequent travels. Rias shared that she was dealing with problems, which Rosalind attributed to her brother. Rias revealed that the raiding game was in 2 days, and she was uncertain about their chances of winning. Sona reassured her that she had Keiji on her side. Elisa asked who Keiji was, and Rias explained that he was her pawn and the Sekirii, who had improved significantly in a short time but still had much to learn since he had been reincarnated about a month ago. Elisa wished Rias luck in her battle, and Rias expressed confidence in their victory. Rosalind suggested they change the subject, mentioning that Elisa's mother was doing much better. Elisa confirmed this, and Sona asked how she had recovered. Elisa explained that she promised not to disclose the doctor's identity. Rias encouraged her to trust them, but Elisa remained firm in her decision. Rosalind noted that Elisa seemed protective of the doctor, to which Elisa replied that he was trustworthy and kind. Rosalind teased that they would eventually find out who he was. Issei continued refining his pill until he finally succeeded, remarking that it took longer than expected. Days passed and the raiding game arrived. The leaders and families gathered to watch the battle. Anna expressed her hope that there wouldn't be too many problems, while Venelana reassured her that they would intervene if necessary. Misla thanked Elisa for the invitation, and they all agreed that the more, the better. As the battle commenced, events unfolded as expected until the end, where Keiji found himself severely injured. He pleaded with Drake for more power, desperate to protect Rias. Drake informed him that he could not handle any more power, but Keiji insisted, asking what he needed to do. Drake proposed a trade. If Keiji sacrificed his arm, he would gain an additional 30 seconds of power. Keiji, in a reckless moment, suggested sacrificing his brother's arm instead. Drake warned him that his brother was just a human and could not endure such pain, but Keiji dismissed the concern, believing no one would miss him. Drake reluctantly agreed, cautioning that it would be Keiji's responsibility. Meanwhile, Issei was in his room reading when he suddenly felt a burning sensation in his arm, causing him to cry out in pain. As he examined his arm, it turned red and began to develop scales. Without wasting time, he assumed a lotus position to HRSS his cultivation, struggling to concentrate due to the pain. He used the jade he had refined to alleviate the discomfort, managing to regain control after a few tense moments. Once he succeeded, he wondered what had caused the pain and vowed to find out who was responsible for this affront to a sovereign. Taking paper and ink, he began to write, seeking the source of the disturbance. He concluded that it originated from the underworld and decided to teleport directly to the location. Meanwhile, Keiji was fighting fiercely against Rias, but his efforts were still insufficient. Razor taunted him, claiming he was not yet at his level. Keiji, frustrated, retorted angrily. Just as they were about to clash again, a bright light appeared between them, and when it faded, Issei stood before them. Keiji, surprised, could not see Issei's face due to his helmet. In the stands, Elisa stood up abruptly, recognizing Issei and questioning how he had arrived. Misla realized who he was, while Issei scanned the area until he locked eyes with Keiji. Issei confronted Keiji, accusing him of causing him harm and expressing his disdain for the insignificant ant. Keiji, enraged, demanded respect, but Issei swiftly kicked him, sending him crashing into a wall. As Issei turned to leave, Razor intervened, challenging him for interfering. Issei dismissed Razor, calling him an imitation of a phoenix, and Razor, infuriated by the insult, vowed to kill him, conjuring a massive fireball. Yet, Issei remained calm, ready to face whatever came next. Serafal expressed concern about the situation, insisting they needed to help. Surzek replied that it was too late and they wouldn't make it in time. Meanwhile, Elisa called out to Issei, who simply raised a finger. He unleashed a golden lightning bolt towards Razor, hitting him squarely and causing him to cry out in pain. As Issei finished his attack, he noticed Razor collapsing to the ground, unable to use his regeneration. Issei remarked on how weak Razor was before leaving the scene. The spectators were astonished, having witnessed Razor being knocked unconscious with just one attack. Anna questioned what the boy had done to leave Razor in such a state. Surzek wondered what kind of ability Issei had used. Elisa, having overheard, confirmed that she knew him. She explained that Issei had helped her heal her mother. Everyone was surprised to learn that a human had accomplished such a feat. Serafal asked how he managed it, and Elisa revealed that he had given her some pills, asking only for the ingredients, which she provided. Serafal was puzzled by the common nature of the ingredients listed on the paper Elisa produced from her pocket dimension. Elisa mentioned that she had tried to replicate the process but found it impossible. Surzek concluded that Issei must have a secret to his method. Elisa affirmed that he was a good person and shared that it was the first time she had seen him fight. She admitted knowing little about him, only that he was Keiji's brother. Anna was taken aback, realizing Issei had struck his own brother. Elisa clarified that she did not understand their relationship, as she knew very little about him. Surzek suggested they should speak with Issei to find out what he had done, but Elisa cautioned against it, stating he wouldn't answer questions. Serafal proposed that perhaps he would share with her, and Elisa simply nodded in agreement. They all departed, some heading to the hospital to recover from the battle, while others were left wondering about Issei's true identity. Issei, on the other hand, was frustrated by the troubles that seemed to follow him. He sighed, acknowledging that he might have overreacted but felt justified after being insulted by a low-ranking demon. He thought about his friend and wondered if he was searching for a new purpose. As he gazed out the window at the sky, he felt the need to return to where he belonged. After that, he lay down on his bed, contemplating leaving home, sensing that problems were on the horizon, especially with the return of that boy. The next day, Issei went out to train before heading to the academy. As expected, the student council was waiting for him at the entrance. Sona approached him, stating they needed to talk. Issei feigned ignorance, prompting Sona to remind him that he knew exactly what she meant. He agreed to follow her lead. Sona instructed Momo and Tsubasa to stay behind while the rest proceeded to the student council room. Once they arrived, Sona took her seat, and the others gathered behind her. She began by addressing Issei, reminding him of the chaos he had caused the previous night. Issei acknowledged his actions but insisted he had his reasons. Initially, he had only intended to confront Kenji, but the low-ranking demon's insults had crossed a line. Sona informed him that the demon he referred to was from a prestigious family and warned him that he could face serious consequences. Issei dismissed her concerns, stating that if Razor were truly of high status, he would have been able to withstand a simple attack. He expressed that he feared neither Razor nor his family. Sona reiterated the power and influence of Razor's family, emphasizing that the Maos supported them. Issei responded with confidence, revealing that he was aware of many things and would defend himself regardless of who came after him, be it a demon or a god. Sona, frustrated, stood up and slammed her hand on the desk, warning him that this was not a game and that he needed to understand the seriousness of the situation. Issei stood as well, asserting that he could defend himself without help from anyone. Saji interjected, questioning how he planned to do that as a human. Issei explained that there were many things about humans that they did not understand, which was why humans in their world struggled to defend themselves. Sona asked how humans could defend themselves, but Issei replied that it was not his concern. He told them to inform the demons that if they wanted a fight, he would gladly oblige. He preferred a peaceful life, but it was difficult to achieve with them around. With that, he grabbed his bag and left, leaving a heavy silence in the room. Tsubaki broke the silence, asking Sona what they should do now. Sona replied that it all depended on Elisa. If she couldn't convince him, no one could. As Issei continued on his path, he received a message from Elisa. He thought to himself that if she said the same things as before, their friendship would come to an end. He put his phone away and, during class, found himself lost in thought about the people around him, especially the demons. He wondered how the other races would be and hoped they would be different when he eventually met them. The bell rang, signaling recess, and Issei left the academy, feeling disinterested in staying. He headed straight to the park, where he sat in a lotus position to enhance his cultivation. Hours passed until he opened his eyes, realizing it was already late. He stood up and made his way to the meeting place, where he spotted Elisa arriving as well. Elisa noted their timing and suggested they sit down. Issei nodded and followed her. She addressed the incident from the previous day, asking how he had done it. Issei explained that it was a result of his training. Elisa informed him that Riser had been severely injured and was under intensive care. Issei acknowledged this but showed little concern, stating that he did not know Riser and that the demon had insulted him, which he felt was unjustified. Elisa understood but hesitated, prompting Issei to cut her off, declaring that their friendship was over. He explained that they had helped each other and owed nothing more. Elisa stood up, looking at him with a mix of emotions. Issei had a surprised expression on his face. Elisa asked what he meant by ending their friendship. Issei explained that he knew the Maos had sent her to ask him many questions and to learn about him. However, he made it clear that he did not appreciate being interrogated. Elisa insisted that she was just doing her duty, and Issei acknowledged that while he understood her loyalty to her kind, he believed that sometimes pride deserved a small consequence. As he stood up and grabbed his bag, Issei declared that this was goodbye and that it had been nice to meet her. He left the place, and Elisa, shocked, could not respond. By the time she snapped out of her trance, it was too late. Issei was already gone. She lamented the loss of her first friend and tried not to cry as she created a magic circle to return home. Upon arriving, her mother noticed her and attempted to speak, but Elisa walked straight to her room. Misla followed her inside. Misla asked what had happened, and Elisa replied that she was fine. Misla pressed for more details, and Elisa revealed that Issei was no longer her friend. Misla inquired about the reason, and Elisa explained that Issei had realized she was sent by the Maos to ask him questions and to make him apologize to Riser, even though he didn't deserve it. Misla understood and pointed out that Elisa should have trusted Issei more, but Elisa admitted she was also curious. Misla advised her that she should have waited longer, as they hardly knew each other. Elisa confessed that she had shared almost everything with Issei, but Misla reminded her that he hadn't forced her to do so. Elisa explained that she wanted to vent to someone, and that someone had been Issei. She felt she had lost a good friend and didn't know what to do next. Misla encouraged her to start over and to inform the Phoenix family that she would not be helping them. Elisa agreed and hugged her mother, thanking her. Misla reassured her that as her mother, it was her duty to ensure Elisa's happiness. Meanwhile, Issei was on his way home and sensed a familiar presence in his room. He entered the house and went straight to his room, where Kenji was sitting with a serious expression. Issei asked if Kenji needed something at that hour. Kenji, annoyed, reminded Issei that he knew very well why he was there. Issei acknowledged that he was aware of Kenji's actions in sacrificing his arm to save a girl and questioned why Kenji hadn't sacrificed his own arm instead, suggesting he was afraid. Kenji retorted that Issei was insignificant and that he had acted because no one would miss Issei. Issei replied that perhaps that was true, and if that was all, Kenji could leave. Kenji vowed to take revenge, stating that he would not let the humiliation he suffered at the hands of the higher-ups go unpunished. Issei warned him not to think foolishly, as he was not a very patient person. Issei opened the door for Kenji to leave, and Kenji, frustrated, got up and exited. Issei, dismissing Kenji's words, sat on his bed to continue his training. After half an hour, he felt a change and realized he had finally achieved the second level of body refinement, the empty jade bone. He smiled, feeling satisfied for the first time, knowing he could recover about 10% of his true power. Meanwhile, in the underworld, Elisa did not want to waste time and headed to the Phoenix territory to speak with her friend. Upon arrival, she went to the lounge, and shortly after, Rosalind arrived. Rosalind asked what brought Elisa there so late, and Elisa revealed that she had spoken with Issei. Rosalind inquired about what Issei had said, and Elisa explained that he had ended their friendship. Rosalind expressed her sympathy and asked why. Elisa explained that Issei had realized she was sent by the Maos to ask him questions and to make him apologize to her brother, even though he did not deserve it. Rosalind understood, stating that Issei was now their enemy. Elisa reassured her that as long as they did not provoke him, everything would be fine. Rosalind expressed her desire to meet Issei and apologize for her brother's actions, noting that Issei had not come for Riser but for his brother. Elisa suggested they go the next day since Issei usually passed by the park in the afternoon after attending the academy where Rias and Sona studied. Rosalind agreed, and once everything was settled, Elisa returned home to rest. The next day, Issei found himself in class, feeling bored as nothing interested him. After school, he followed his usual path until he encountered a redhead and a blonde. Elisa greeted him, and Issei responded with a simple good afternoon. Elisa felt a bit sad that he hadn't even used her name, but she smiled nonetheless. Issei noted that they were there for a reason and asked what they wanted. Rosalind introduced herself as Rosalind Phoenix and apologized for her brother's actions, acknowledging that Issei had only defended himself. Issei acknowledged her words and stepped a bit closer. Rosalind, feeling uneasy, took a step back. When Issei stood in front of her, she blushed slightly. Issei found her strength interesting and remarked that she had reached her limit. Rosalind was surprised by this observation. Issei continued, stating that if she broke through those limits, she could achieve great things. Rosalind, curious, asked how far she could go. Issei explained that if she surpassed those limits, she could attain the strength of a true phoenix. Rosalind was taken aback, and Issei added that they only possessed 40% of a phoenix's abilities, but she had the potential to exceed that percentage. Rosalind asked how she could break that limit, and Issei told her that she would have to find a way. Rosalind insisted that since he was sharing this information, he must have a reason. Issei acknowledged her intelligence but stated that he knew a way to help her but would not assist her. Rosalind questioned why, and Issei replied that he did not know her well enough and saw no reason to help someone who might want to harm him later. Rosalind clarified that she did not want to harm him, just like Elisa. Issei explained that he was cautious, and if that was all, he would take his leave. Elisa, wanting to change the subject, asked why he was always so serious and noted that she had rarely seen him smile. Issei stated that he had no reason to smile. Rosalind teased him, saying he acted like an old man and not like the other kids his age. Issei retorted that she was also young, calling her a kid. Rosalind challenged him, saying he had the nerve to speak to her that way, as no one had ever talked to her like that before. Issei suggested it was because people feared her family. Rosalind asked if he was afraid of her family, and Issei confidently replied that he was not, as they were nothing to him. He had encountered many strong individuals in his life. Elisa urged them to change the topic, and Issei suggested that the best course of action was for each of them to go their separate ways, indicating that he would soon be leaving. Elisa asked about his family, and Issei revealed that he had no family and had things to seek, stating he did not belong there. Rosalind inquired where he did belong, and Issei replied that he belonged to a very distant place. Some can only dream. Elisa asked where Issei would be going soon, and he replied that he was looking for what he needed. Elisa wondered if he was searching for more items like the ones he had requested from her. Issei confirmed that he was. Elisa expressed her curiosity about how he accomplished everything, noting that her own attempts had ended disastrously. Issei acknowledged her misfortune but believed that no one else could achieve what he did. Rosalind commented that she didn't like Issei's attitude, to which he responded that he had always been this way and couldn't change who he was. Rosalind insisted that he was lying, reminding him that Sona had informed them about his past as a pervert and fool. Issei defended himself, saying appearances can be deceiving, and stated that he had to leave for more important matters. Rosalind teased him about what could possibly be more important than talking to two beautiful girls. Issei, known for his playful nature, noticed Rosalind's discontent with his expression. Rosalind warned him that she didn't like the look on his face, and he simply asked what she wanted him to say. She suggested he admit she was right, to which he conceded. As he headed home, Rosalind remarked on his oddness, while Elisa pointed out that he was sincere, which was evident. Rosalind found it amusing to tease him and insisted that Elisa had to agree with her. Elisa admitted a little, but they both recognized that they couldn't do anything for now. Rosalind pondered whether Issei was right about her potential to elevate her power, and Elisa confirmed that his actions with her mother suggested he was telling the truth. Rosalind expressed her frustration about not surpassing her limits even after years of training, questioning what she was missing. Elisa believed that only Issei had the answer, and Rosalind was determined to get it from him eventually. Elisa acknowledged Rosalind's persistence, knowing she would always get what she wanted, but Rosalind laughed, saying it would be a challenge with Issei. The two girls then returned to the underworld, while Issei continued on his way home, reflecting on how insistent Rosalind was and predicting that she would annoy him frequently in the future. She reminded him of his first and last disciple. Looking up at the sky, Issei hoped he wasn't being sought after, advising whoever it was to not waste their life on foolishness and to start their own family. He sighed as he arrived home, noticing two people in the living room. Upon entering, Issei called out and saw Miki and another person. Miki asked if he knew where Keiji was, as someone had come to see him. Issei replied that he didn't. Miki understood, and then a familiar voice greeted him. It had been a while since they had seen each other, and Issei closed his eyes momentarily to recall who it was, feeling displeased with the memory. With a serious expression, he addressed her as Shido Irina. She was slightly taken aback by his tone. Irina asked how he was, and Issei replied that he was fine but needed to rest, leaving the room without waiting for a response. The three women fell silent, surprised by his serious demeanor. Miki expressed her frustration with Issei's behavior, while Irina noted that Keiji was taking longer than expected and they needed to leave for other matters. Miki wished them a good trip as she guided them to the door. Issei reflected on Irina, recalling that she was the one the previous owner of his body had been in love with, and it seemed he had rejected her in the worst way possible. He felt a twinge of sympathy for her, thinking perhaps fate had brought him here to restore her name. He sat down on the floor to begin his cultivation, as he was close to advancing to a higher level. The next day, Issei attended the academy as usual. While walking, he overheard whispers about new transfer students but paid them no mind. At lunchtime, he was about to head to his usual spot to rest when he heard loud cries from the girls. A blond boy entered Issei's classroom and approached him, introducing himself as Kiba and stating that Rias wanted to speak with him. Issei hoped it would be quick as he had better things to do, and got up to follow Kiba. The journey was filled with silence, as Kiba attempted to start a conversation, but Issei did not respond to any of his questions. Upon arrival, Issei noticed two more people in the room. He asked Rias Gremory what she wanted from him. Rias got straight to the point, inviting him to sit and have some tea. Issei took a seat on the sofa, observing the three girls without saying much. Rias explained that during her rating game, she had seen how strong he was and wanted him to join her team. Issei declined, stating he didn't want to be anyone's servant, especially not someone weaker than himself. Rias frowned at his response, and Issei stood up, saying he was leaving. Rosalind asked if he wouldn't say anything about why they were there, but Issei simply shook his head. Elisa smiled and declared that they would be his seniors from now on, hoping they would get along. Issei walked toward the exit, leaving the girls behind. Rosalind had expected a better reaction, perhaps one of surprise, while Elisa had a feeling he would act that way. Rias lamented that he had rejected her, and Elisa pointed out that it was to be expected, noting that Rias already had the security eye. Rias insisted she wanted a stronger group, to which Rosalind argued that her team was already strong, they just needed to work better together. Elisa then asked what Rias planned to do about the two church agents. Rias explained that she had discussed it with Sona, and as long as they didn't cause trouble, it would be fine. Rosalind offered their help if anything happened. Rias thanked them. The day passed peacefully for most, while Issei had a productive day visiting several pharmacies to gather the plans he needed to create a new pill that would assist him. As the vacation approached, Issei realized he needed to travel to find better resources and would need money for that. He planned to find a way for someone to buy the pills he would make. On his way home, he sensed several auras gathered in one place, some of which felt familiar. He wondered what trouble the younger ones had gotten into. Although he had no intention of intervening, curiosity got the better of him, and he wanted to learn more about their abilities. Upon arrival, he saw the two church agents, Kenji, Kiba, and Kaneko fighting against fallen angels. Issei thought it was unbelievable that they were struggling against such weak opponents. He observed as the group began to lose ground but had no intention of stepping in. Minutes passed, and the group grew weary, on the verge of being injured, but the fallen angels retreated just as Rias, Elisa, and Rosalind arrived. To avoid being bothered, Issei decided to leave the area. It was still early, so he chose to head into the forest. Issei continued with his cultivation, feeling a mysterious call as he ventured deeper into the forest. He decided to follow the sensation until he reached his destination. After a short while, he arrived at a cave and entered, making his way to the depths where he was surprised by what he found. He approached with a smile, marveling at the sight before him. This was the ice of the Weeping River. As he drew closer to the tree, he realized it would greatly aid his cultivation. He wondered how it had come to be in such a place and if there were other cultivators in this world. Taking a seat near the tree, he closed his eyes and began to enhance his cultivation. He remained there for 3 days, which felt like no time at all to him. When he opened his eyes, a smile spread across his face as he realized he had improved significantly in such a short period. Grateful for the tree's influence, he stood up and returned to where he had left his bag, noting the date. He acknowledged that 3 days had passed, but it was not a big deal. It was time to return to his usual routine. As he exited the cave, he noticed it was late. Upon leaving the forest, he sensed several auras at the academy. He wondered what was happening there and if his friends had gotten into trouble again. With a sigh, he decided to investigate, feeling the aura of someone who seemed a bit weak. He made his way to the location and noticed a large barrier. Realizing that destroying it would only draw more attention, he used one of his skills to create a small opening to observe what was happening. He climbed to the academy building for a better view of the battle. The difference in power between the combatants and the monstrous creature sitting nearby was evident. He thought that if Rosalind trained more, she wouldn't struggle as much, and while Elisa had potential, she still had a long way to go. He continued to watch the fight, not intending to intervene just yet, as he sensed another aura that seemed to be watching over one of the fighters. He mused that some people believed themselves to be great simply because they possessed power, and he suspected that this individual was a demon, typical of their kind. As time passed, Issei noticed the fatigue setting in among the fighters, yet he still had no intention of helping. He wanted to see if Elisa and Rosalind could push their limits. Aquino expressed concern about their dwindling magic, while Rias anxiously awaited reinforcements. Rosalind felt it was impossible to win against such a powerful opponent, and Elisa acknowledged the strength of their foe, who had fought in the Great War. Kokabeel, tired of waiting, flashed a grin at the weary group, preparing to attack when suddenly, someone destroyed the barrier. Issei thought it was about time, as Valley arrived, surprising most of the onlookers. The battle commenced, and Valley easily emerged victorious. He noticed Issei watching from the building and remarked on his enjoyment of the spectacle, leaving many to wonder who he was addressing. Issei responded, pointing out that Valley's grand entrance did not make him the best. Everyone turned to see Issei, who continued to express his thoughts. He explained that he had not intervened for two reasons. He wanted to see if they could surpass their limits, and he felt it was not his place to do so. Elisa hesitated, recalling that Issei had ended their friendship. Issei decided to leave, prompting Vala to challenge him, claiming he was just an ordinary human without anything special. Issei countered that while he might seem that way, the power he possessed was earned, not given by a weak dragon. Vala's eyes widened at this revelation, though his expression remained hidden behind his helmet. Issei speculated that no one had realized Vala was a demon, to which Rosalind responded that it was impossible for a demon to possess a sacred gear. Issei suggested that Vala must be a half-breed, noting that Vala seemed displeased with the revelation. Vala vowed that this would not end here and left the scene, while Issei paid little mind to his threat as he departed as well. Rosalind and Elisa intended to follow him, but the two Maos arrived, demanding explanations, leaving them no choice but to stay. 2 days passed with little change. Issei continued his training, but two individuals at the academy persistently bothered him. A new day arrived, marking the day of the parents. Issei anticipated it would be just another ordinary day, having not had parents for years. He felt a sense of foreboding, thinking it would be a long day. Classes began, and when it was time for English, instead of a lesson, they were assigned to work with clay. Issei crafted the first thing that came to mind, the sword that had accompanied him in all his battles. He hoped that if he could regain half of his power, he would be able to call upon it, no matter where it was. Unfortunately, he realized he would have to wait a few more years due to the limited resources available. After finishing his project, the teacher praised him, and Issei left the classroom. With no more classes for the day, he decided to head to the forest to relax and cultivate in peace. Minutes later, he arrived at a serene spot filled with trees and a lake. He felt the abundant chi in the area, which would help him improve. After 2 hours of meditation, he sensed someone approaching. Just as they were about to touch his head, Issei grabbed their hand and opened his eyes. Rosalind stood before him, and he inquired about her presence. She urged him to speak more kindly, especially in front of Elisa, who agreed that he should be a bit more amiable. Rosalind explained that they had been searching for him at the academy to invite him to the movies or do something fun, but they had been unable to find him. Elisa added that it had taken them a long time to track him down. Issei acknowledged their efforts, and Rosalind pressed him for a more enthusiastic response, hoping he would say something different. Rosalind expressed her curiosity, suggesting that it made her happy when people sought her out. Issei questioned why he should say such things to them. Elisa remarked on Issei's unusual behavior, prompting him to respond that they were quite persistent. Rosalind clarified that they were simply curious. Issei sighed, agreeing to share if it meant they would stop bothering him. Both girls brightened at his response and moved closer to him. He placed a hand on each of their heads, sharing a brief memory. Suddenly, memories flooded Issei's mind, recalling how he had been treated in the past compared to his brother, and the day he had lost his life. Elisa was taken aback by this revelation and was about to speak when Issei showed them a glimpse of his life as an immortal sovereign and how he had come to be in this world. The girls were astonished by the beauty of the place from which he came. Issei revealed that his true name was Qin Fan, and he had ended up in this land due to a mistake, with the intention of returning in the future. Elisa realized he was the true Issei, who had perished in a fall, but before his soul vanished, he had used one of his abilities to reincarnate into a family that would love him. Rosalind understood his change in attitude, recalling how others had described him as a perverted and foolish student. Issei explained that the former Issei had acted that way to gain attention, longing for friends and a girlfriend to share happiness with, but fate had dealt him a different hand. Rosalind noted that there were moments when he seemed softer, to which Issei replied that he had lived many years and learned much, emphasizing the importance of staying calm to move forward. Elisa acknowledged his intention to return to his true home, and Issei confirmed that he did not belong there, suggesting that some people might be searching for him, like his first disciple or his friend. Rosalind was intrigued to learn that his friend was a phoenix, and Issei described him as kind yet feared for his destructive power. Rosalind found this fascinating, and Issei reflected on the many worlds he had seen throughout his life. When Elisa asked his opinion of this world, he remarked that people often acted without thinking. Rosalind suspected he was referring to her brother, and Issei admitted that he had met many people. He decided to change the subject, stating he would go rest. Elisa thanked him for sharing who he was, and Issei acknowledged that he understood. As he left, the girls processed everything that had just happened. Later, Issei found himself in his room, meditating on a day without classes. He reached a new level, unleashing a surge of power around him, though no one felt it. Meanwhile, far away, two girls sat under a tree. One of them, Linga, suddenly stood up, prompting her companion to ask what was wrong. When she received no answer, she approached Linga and was surprised to see tears in her eyes. Linga explained that she had sensed her master's power, albeit faintly. Her friend was skeptical, noting that he had disappeared weeks ago and was presumed dead. Linga insisted that she recognized her master's aura and was determined to find him, despite her friend's doubts about her previous attempts. Linga was resolute, stating that he had done so much for her without asking for anything in return, and now that she had a lead, she would pursue it. Linga left with a bright smile, declaring her intention to find her master, feeling bored without his stories. Back with Issei, he reflected on his progress and remembered that the next day was Parents' Day, anticipating a long day ahead. The following morning, he made his way to the academy, where he was greeted by Rosalind and Elisa. They exchanged pleasantries, and Rosalind reminded Issei of the significance of the day. She inquired if his adoptive parents would attend, to which Issei replied that they might go to see Keiji instead. Elisa mentioned that her mother wanted to speak with him to express her gratitude for his help. Issei felt it unnecessary, but Elisa insisted that her mother was quite persistent. As they entered the academy, Sona greeted them. When Rosalind asked if Sona's sister would be attending, Sona shivered at the thought, admitting she hadn't informed her. Rosalind smiled, enjoying Sona's embarrassment, while Elisa warned her about the consequences of her actions. Rosalind was confident that by the time Sona found out, it would be too late. The two girls then headed to their classroom. As the hours passed, parents began to arrive. In Issei's class, they were tasked with creating something from clay. To simplify things, Issei divided his clay into two parts, crafting representations of his friend and his disciple. The teacher was impressed by the details of his work, and several classmates attempted to buy them, but Issei declined. After class, he headed to the cafeteria to meet with some people. Upon arrival, he found the three girls waiting for him. Issei apologized for his tardiness, and Misla introduced herself, thanking him for his help. Issei acknowledged that they both benefited from their arrangement. Misla then surprised him by asking if he wanted to be part of her family. Both girls were taken aback, and one of them blushed. Issei sought clarification, and Misla explained that she meant being part of her daughter's entourage. He politely declined, stating that Elisa had already made a similar proposal, and he valued his freedom and a life without complications. Elisa teased him about being problematic, and Issei admitted that he might be. However, he reiterated his stance, and Misla accepted his response, acknowledging her attempt. Someone who would investigate to understand how you were before, and it seems that things are not as I was told. Issei acknowledged that people change. Misla remarked that it was a significant change, noting how he had traded his usual joy for a serious demeanor in just one day. Issei explained that some people wear masks to hide their true selves, and that had been his case. Misla inquired why he had done that, to which Issei replied that he wanted some freedom, but now, as he was in his final 2 years of study, he needed to change that. Misla suggested that his parents must be proud of his transformation, and Issei responded that perhaps they were. He then indicated that he could leave if that was all. Misla thanked him again for his help, and Issei nodded, stood up, and left the place. Misla thought he was a good boy. Rosalind added that he was also amusing, to which Misla questioned what was funny about him. Rosalind explained that his seriousness was entertaining, imagining how it would be when he smiled, suggesting that if he ever did, something significant would be happening. Elisa thought Rosalind was exaggerating. Rosalind recalled that there would be a gathering that night. Elisa expressed her hope that nothing bad would happen since she wasn't in the mood to fight. Rosalind pointed out that Elisa never wanted to fight and asked if she would participate in the raiding games this year. Elisa replied that maybe she would, and Rosalind confirmed she would definitely join, noting that she missed out last year due to other commitments. Misla suggested they head home, offering to make dinner and inviting Rosalind to join them. Rosalind agreed, and the three of them teleported to the underworld. As was his habit, Issei went to the forest to continue his training. Upon arrival, he sat down and began to meditate in silence, listening to the sounds of the lake and the gentle breeze. Hours passed until he decided to open his eyes again, realizing it was late and time to head home. On his way, he sensed a significant amount of power emanating from his academy. Issei sighed, recognizing that those people enjoyed getting into trouble. He thought to himself that if he went there, he would only find more problems and be bombarded with questions, as the people there were far too curious. Issei felt compelled to return to the academy, knowing that his friends often found themselves in trouble. As he walked down the street, he sensed a surge of power. Upon arriving, he easily passed through the barrier, which felt weak to him. Suddenly, an explosion echoed in the air, signaling the start of a battle. Looking up, Issei saw several mages emerging from magical circles. One of them spotted him and charged forward with intent to attack, but Issei swiftly used one of his abilities to defeat the mage without much effort. He continued on his path until he reached a gathering of people. Elisa noticed him first and called out his name, drawing the attention of several others who were surprised to see him there. Rosalind asked what he was doing, and Issei remarked on their knack for getting into trouble. Rosalind chuckled, acknowledging that something always seemed to happen. Issei recognized KG in red armor and asked about the other figure, learning that it was Valley Lucifer, the rival of the Red Dragon. Curious about his presence, Surzek inquired who Issei was, to which he replied that he was merely an acquaintance of the two girls. Serafal questioned how he had entered, and Issei casually explained it was easy. His gaze then fell on Irina, and he sensed her disdain toward him, hoping she wouldn't cause him any trouble. Just then, a commotion erupted as KG fell to the ground, slightly injured. Rias checked on him, and Asia offered to heal him, but KG insisted he needed to return to the fight. Drake warned him that he was too drained to continue, which frustrated KG. Valim mocked him for being weak, and Albion commented on Drake's choice of a host. KG snapped back, but Valle, with a grin, expressed his intent to finish what he started with Issei. Issei dismissed Valle's threats, claiming he was just an insignificant insect beneath his feet. Valle's anger was palpable, and Issei noted that he was easily swayed by his emotions, which made him weak. Valle vowed to kill Issei, who challenged him to try and promised to demonstrate 36 martial arts techniques. As Valle lunged at him, Issei executed his first technique, creating a powerful gust of wind that sent Valle flying. When Valle recovered and attacked again, Issei appeared behind him and struck with a single finger, leaving a mark on Valle's chest. Valle was bewildered at how Issei had penetrated his armor, and Drake cautioned him about Issei's unusual abilities. With a swift motion, Issei unleashed another attack, shattering Valle's sword and causing him to cry out in pain. Issei taunted him, stating that he had only managed to withstand 3 of his techniques and that he would be defeated if he faced the rest. Valle cursed him, but Issei reminded him that there were far stronger beings out there, and having a dragon did not make him special. Before Valle could retaliate, Biko arrived, prompting Valle to reluctantly withdraw, vowing that this wasn't over. Issei turned to leave but was approached by Rosalind, who praised his performance. Azizel inquired about how Issei executed his attacks without losing magical energy, to which Issei replied that he drew upon nature. Michael noted that Issei had acted with the wisdom of someone much older, which was unusual for someone his age. Surzek offered assistance for Issei's help, but he declined, stating he was fine. Just as he was about to depart, he felt a familiar energy and looked up at the sky, prompting the others to follow his gaze. Moments later, the barrier shattered, and a figure floated down, scanning the area until their eyes met Issei's. The figure, Linga, expressed surprise at his energy. Issei recognized her and confirmed her identity. She rushed to embrace him, having missed him and believing he was alive. After separating, she explained that she had felt his aura and used magical stones to find him in this strange place. Issei noted that it was indeed noisier and remarked on how different everything appeared. Linger commented on his appearance, saying he looked thinner, and Issei promised to explain later. She insisted on calling him Master, attributing her success to him, but he requested she simply call him Issei in public. Elisa, curious about Linger, asked for her identity. Linger introduced herself as Issei's disciple, which surprised everyone, especially the men who admired her beauty. Issei noticed their reactions and asked Elisa for a favor, suggesting she help Linger find suitable clothing. Linger questioned what was wrong with her current outfit, and Issei discreetly pointed out the unwanted attention she was receiving. She realized the implications and asked if people dressed differently here. Issei confirmed that if they did, they wouldn't attract such stares. Shifting the topic, Issei inquired about Linger's cultivation, learning that her journey had set her back significantly. He encouraged her to practice diligently to regain her strength. In turn, she asked about his own progress, and he admitted he was also lacking in power. Linger decided to wait for him, having left Li Siyu in charge. Issei then offered to show her a good place to cultivate, and they prepared to leave, bidding farewell to the others. The next day in the park, they parted ways with Linger, leaving many questions behind. Surzek asked Elisa what she knew about the boy, Issei. Elisa replied that he was a good person and always sincere, but he didn't trust many people around him. Sona noted that his attitude hadn't always been this way. Azazel inquired how he used to be, and Sona explained that he had poor grades and was quite the troublemaker, often visiting her office without a care. Keiji added that he was the same at home. Keiji approached his friends, Saji and Kiba, and remarked on how beautiful that girl was. Saji agreed, expressing disbelief that someone like Issei could be with such a beauty. Kiba admitted she was indeed lovely. They were surprised by Kiba's interest, as it was the first time he had shown such enthusiasm for a girl. Kiba acknowledged her strength and beauty, declaring he wanted her by his side. Keiji insisted he would pursue her first, and Saji echoed the sentiment. Meanwhile, Issei walked through the streets with Linger, who gazed around in wonder. He asked her about the situation back home, and she explained that things had changed since his departure, with many trying to take what belonged to him. She had tried to protect it but found it impossible. Issei reassured her that it was all right as what mattered most was safe, and that she was irreplaceable, material things didn't matter. Linger vowed to always be by his side since he saved her that day on the streets. Issei reminded her that she often said that and that it didn't matter to him. Linger insisted it was important to her, as her life had changed significantly since that day. Issei acknowledged that when he returned, he would have to start over with his new appearance to avoid causing a stir. Linger suggested he could stay in her sect, as everything she had was his. Issei declined, stating that it was her hard work, and besides, it was a place filled only with women. Linger explained that men only came to flirt, which she couldn't stand. Issei hoped she could handle the attention from mortals, and Linger assured him she would. He cautioned her that humans knew nothing about cultivation, so she shouldn't reveal her abilities. Linger found the place strange, as it was her first time seeing such a world, and Issei admitted he felt the same. They continued their journey until they reached the forest and arrived at the cave. Linger asked how he ended up there, and Issei explained that when he died, he suddenly awakened in the body of a young man, seeing all his memories. He shared that the boy had not lived a good life. Linger expressed sympathy for the boy, and Issei revealed that he had used some of his abilities to help him reincarnate into a family that would love him. Linger praised Issei for being a great person, always helping others. He suggested they change the subject and focus on cultivation, as they needed to improve quickly to return home. Linger asked if he didn't like it there, and Issei admitted he didn't much, noting that the people were about to enter a senseless war, which he wanted no part of. Linger inquired what he would do when he returned, and Issei explained he would explore for a year to see how things were going before reuniting with her. Linger wished to accompany him, but Issei insisted she needed to improve as well, and it would be better for her to stay and train. As they began their training, Linger suggested a way to cultivate faster, hinting at a deeper connection. She expressed her desire to try it with him, and Issei asked if she was sure, reminding her that it would mean she couldn't be with another man afterward. Linger affirmed her commitment to him, explaining that she had trained hard to be by his side and wanted to prove it. She stood up and removed her dress, and Issei, realizing the significance of the moment, approached her. The next morning, Issei awoke first to find Linger resting on his chest, both covered by their clothes. He reflected on how focused he had been on cultivation that he hadn't noticed Linger's feelings for him, vowing to take better care of her. As he stroked her silky hair, Linger woke up, and their eyes met, causing her to blush as she struggled to find words. She greeted him, and Issei suggested she stop calling him master, noting that she was now stronger than he was. Linger explained it was a habit, and Issei hoped it wouldn't take long for her to adjust. He then asked how she felt, and Linger mentioned her cultivation had increased more than she expected. Issei clarified he meant how her body felt, and she admitted to some discomfort but assured him she was fine, her face turning red as she hit it against his chest. He smiled at her reaction, and they remained like that for a few minutes before deciding to get up and leave. Issei helped Linger walk, as her legs were sore. They walked until they reached the park, where Issei informed her that they would be arriving shortly. Linger asked if he meant the red-haired girl, and Issei confirmed. He mentioned she needed new clothes before they could train. Linger reminisced about her childhood when she was just starting to learn. Issei complimented her talent and quick learning, and she thanked him. After a few moments, Elisa and Rosalind arrived. Rosalind greeted them, and Linger returned the greeting, calling them sisters, which surprised both girls. Issei explained it was normal where they came from, and Elisa said they would try to get used to it. Issei then mentioned he had something to do and wasn't good at socializing, asking them to call him later to let him know where they would be. Rosalind inquired about his plans, and Issei explained he needed to deliver some things before parting ways. Elisa suggested they head out, and Linger assured them she would take care of them, introducing herself as Hong Ling. Elisa introduced herself as Elisa Bale, and Rosalind followed with her name, Rosalind Phoenix, before expressing excitement about the action ahead and asking Linger to tell them about Issei, particularly how he used to be. Linger acknowledged that they already knew about his past. It was a beautiful day, and there was much to do, so they set off. Linger smiled, enjoying the opportunity to share stories about Issei. They made their way to the store. Issei walked through the city streets and entered a pharmacy to sell one of his pills, hoping to gather resources for the future. He went straight to the doctor. The doctor greeted him, asking if he needed anything. Issei offered to sell a bottle of pills, explaining that they helped relieve fatigue. The doctor initially suspected they were drags and was about to call the police. Issei reassured him, stating that he could see the doctor hadn't slept in a while and suggested he try one. The doctor was skeptical, questioning if Issei was trying to harm him. To prove his point, Issei took a pill in front of the doctor. After a moment, the doctor noticed that Issei was fine and decided to try one himself. Moments later, he felt his fatigue lift and was surprised by the effectiveness of the pill. Curious, the doctor asked how Issei created it. Issei replied that it was a secret. The doctor agreed to buy the pills, acknowledging that many people would want something like this. Issei asked for 10,000 for the bottle, which the doctor thought was a lot. Issei insisted it was fair, as the doctor could sell each pill for whatever price he wanted. After some contemplation, the doctor accepted the deal and handed over the money. Before leaving, Issei provided his number for future orders. He continued visiting pharmacies until he had gathered a total of 100,000. Issei thought it wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. Just then, his phone rang and he saw it was Elisa, who informed him that they were at the park. After ending the call, Issei headed to the park to meet the girls. Upon arrival, he found Rosalind, Linger, and Elisa waiting for him. Rosalind remarked that he was late, to which Issei replied that he had been busy. Linger asked what he had been doing, and Issei explained he was taking care of some matters. Elisa excitedly shared that they had a great day and asked Issei about his plans for the vacation. Issei admitted he wasn't sure yet, prompting Elisa to suggest a trip to the underworld for some fun. Issei hesitated, recalling his past experiences. Rosalind encouraged him not to dwell on what happened with Razor, assuring him that her parents did not blame him. Understanding her point, Issei agreed to go with Linger. Elisa was thrilled and announced they would leave in a few days. Issei nodded and left with Linger, walking until they reached the forest. Issei mentioned he would soon buy a house, and Linger expressed her fondness for the place, reminiscing about her adventures with her companion. Issei suggested Linger rest while he cultivated. She nodded and moved a bit away to avoid disturbing him. Issei settled into a lotus position, closing his eyes to focus on his cultivation. Days passed, and vacation arrived. Issei and Linger met with Elisa and Rosalind to head to the underworld, this time traveling by train. Issei questioned the reason for this mode of transportation, and Elisa explained that they needed to register as new individuals in the underworld, unlike their previous visit. Issei understood, and they made their way to the train, passing by other groups. 3 boys couldn't help but stare at Linger, captivated by her beauty. After a short walk, they reached their compartment. Linger inquired about the duration of the trip, and Rosalind assured her it would only take an hour, which would pass quickly. As time went by, the group conversed, though Issei rarely answered questions. After what felt like a long journey, they arrived at their destination. Issei expressed confusion about why they had to stop for the boys to fight a dragon. Rosalind explained it was a test from Azazel. Issei noted that the boys had a long way to go, as they struggled to work together despite being teammates. Linger suggested they might not get along well. Issei agreed, and they continued on to the mansion, where they were greeted by a butler and Elisa's mother. Elisa rushed to embrace her mother. Misla welcomed everyone, and Issei thanked her for their hospitality. Linger assured them they wouldn't be a bother. Rosalind mentioned she needed to greet her family and would see them later. The others nodded in agreement as she left. The next day, Issei and Linger stood at the exit, waiting for Elisa to join them. A few minutes later, Elisa appeared, surprised to see Issei and Linger with their luggage. She expressed disappointment that their vacation wasn't over yet. Issei explained they had things to do, admitting it had been fun but they needed to return. Elisa insisted they join her for a youth gathering, but Issei declined, sensing they might not be treated well and lacking the desire to hear nonsense. Elisa understood and asked where they were headed next. Issei replied they needed to continue their training. Linger thanked Elisa for everything, giving her a hug. Afterward, Elisa accompanied them to the train station before saying goodbye, unable to change Issei's mind. After an hour of travel, they arrived at their destination and took a taxi to the airport. Issei mentioned that getting Linger a passport wasn't easy. Linger asked what he did, and Issei replied it was a secret, explaining that it wasn't as easy to travel here as it was elsewhere. Linger found that boring, and Issei agreed but explained that was just how things were. Hours passed, and they reached their destination. Linger expressed her dislike for the airplane experience. Issei countered that feeling the breeze was better and noted that the flight took too long. Linger asked what they would do next, and Issei shared that he had researched and planned to find a place in the forest. Linger complimented Issei on always being prepared. He smiled slightly, and they left the airport. After a half-hour journey, they arrived at their destination, both surprised by the overwhelming energy present. Linger remarked that they could cultivate more comfortably here, noting it was stronger than in Japan. Issei agreed, stating they would stay for a while to increase their levels. Linger wondered if he wanted to return soon, but Issei explained he had matters to attend to. When she asked if he would reveal his identity, Issei firmly stated he would act as a common cultivator to understand what had happened during his absence. Linger expressed concern that if he acted that way, she wouldn't be able to see him much. Issei acknowledged that it would be unusual for them to stay together for too long. He expressed his admiration for Linger's achievements, noting her impressive rank and effort. Linger, however, expressed her reluctance to wait for someone to return to their rank. Issei recognized the difficulty of the situation but suggested they focus on finding a place to camp. Linger nodded in agreement, and they continued their journey. Meanwhile, Rosalind was frustrated about their abrupt departure. Elisa reminded her that Issei had left them no choice but to retreat. Rosalind pointed out that they needed to prepare for the battle against the Nordic god and had hoped for Issei's assistance. Elisa reminded her that Issei wouldn't always be there to save them. Rosalind acknowledged this and wondered where he had gone. Elisa admitted that Issei hadn't shared anything, nor had Linger. Rosalind speculated that Issei might not have allowed Linger to speak, given her admiration for him. Elisa agreed, noting that they would see each other the next day to rest for the upcoming fight. Issei and Linger walked for a while until they reached a river, where they set up their tent. While Issei prepared their campsite, Linger went to gather food. After some time, she returned with a basket full of ingredients, surprising Issei. He recognized the items as dragon heart herbs, snow lotus, ice heart, and earth mushrooms common in their homeland but rare in this area. Linger asked what he would do with them, and Issei explained that he would create a pill to enhance their bodies, preparing them for potential challenges ahead. Linger was excited and handed him the basket. Issei sat down and began to mix the ingredients using spiritual fire. After an hour of refining, he successfully created 2 pills. He handed one to Linger, who thanked him and took it, just as he did. They both assumed a lotus position and began to cultivate. After 3 hours, they opened their eyes simultaneously. Linger felt her cultivation improve significantly and believed she could regain half of her power within a week. Issei noted his own progress, acknowledging that even common ingredients had proven beneficial. Linger suggested that if they found these ingredients here, there might be higher quality ones nearby. Issei agreed and decided they should search more thoroughly, noting that this world wasn't so bad after all, aside from the arrogant individuals. Linger remarked that such people were everywhere. Issei recalled a time when someone from a noble family had asked for her hand in marriage, which made Linger cringe at the memory. Issei chuckled, recalling how she had sent the suitor flying from their home, which only enhanced her reputation. Linger dismissed the memory, stating that all that mattered now was what the future held. Issei reminded her that it was getting late and she should rest, as they had a long day ahead. Linger asked how long they would stay there, to which Issei replied it could be a few years. She expressed concern about not informing Elisa and Rosalind, but Issei reassured her that they had their own matters to attend to and might meet again. Linger accepted this and gave Issei a gentle kiss on the cheek before heading off to rest. Issei reflected on his need to improve quickly and return to his previous life, worried that the elders would take advantage of his absence. He leaned against a tree, gazing at the stars and reminiscing about his travels. The next day, they stood by the river in fighting stances, eager to test their limits. They charged at each other with great speed. Linger landed the first blow, sending Issei flying, but he quickly regained his footing and attempted to strike back. Linger skillfully blocked his attack, and Issei smirked as he delivered a kick to her stomach, causing her to gasp for air. They continued their sparring for a while until Issei conceded, acknowledging that Linger had greater strength and skill. He admitted he still had a long way to go, while Linger praised his improvement, noting that against anyone else, he would have won more swiftly. After their training, they parted ways to search for more ingredients. Days passed as Issei and Linger focused on practicing and cultivating until she finally reached the necessary level to return home. Issei encouraged her to go back, reminding her of her responsibilities as the leader of her sect. Linger expressed her desire to stay with him, but Issei insisted she prioritize her students. She reluctantly accepted that a few years apart wouldn't be too long and bid him farewell, promising she would return. Issei assured her he would reclaim what was his. Linger embraced him, and after a moment, she took flight and left. Issei watched her go until she disappeared from view. He realized it was time for him to continue his journey as well, having spent 2 weeks away. With the necessary ingredients in hand, he began to walk out of the forest. 2 days later, Issei arrived at the Ku airport, where his first task was to find an apartment, as he had no intention of returning to the noisy house. The following day he returned to school, hoping to avoid the 2 loud girls, and to his surprise, they were absent. During recess, he stepped outside and found a tree to meditate under until someone approached him. A girl with chestnut hair called out to him, and upon hearing her voice, Issei opened his eyes to see Murayama standing there. He struggled to recall her identity until memories of the previous owner surfaced. Murayama warned him not to spy on them, or he would face consequences. Issei replied that he had no time for such matters, closing his eyes again, which Murayama did not appreciate. He then asked if she needed anything else. Murayama confronted Issei, stating that he was not the same person he used to be. Issei acknowledged the change, indicating that he had decided to transform himself. Murayama, surprised, expected him to remain unchanged. Issei, feeling occupied, questioned her intentions for approaching him. She explained that she had come to warn him, but he dismissed her and continued with his day. As the hours passed and classes concluded, Issei made his way home. On his walk, he noticed a classmate, who had previously annoyed him, being dragged away. With a sigh, he followed them to find 3 boys confronting Murayama, who was brandishing a katana. One of the boys taunted her, claiming her weapon would not save her. Murayama stood firm, declaring her position as the captain of the kendo club, asserting that they wouldn't leave easily. The boys, undeterred, prepared to attack, but Murayama's attempts to defend herself were hindered by the cramped space. Just as one of the boys declared her efforts futile, Issei intervened, stating that it was rude to treat a lady that way. Murayama was taken aback to see him. The boys, realizing they had no choice, decided to confront Issei. He remained calm as one of them lunged at him, only to be met with a swift kick that sent him back to his friends, leaving them shocked, especially Murayama. Issei approached them with a serious expression, prompting the boys to abandon Murayama and focus on him. With 2 quick strikes, he surprised Murayama with his skill. Once the confrontation was over, he turned to leave. Murayama, curious about his abilities, asked him what he had just used. Issei explained that it was not magic but a common skill, emphasizing that understanding the world around them was key. Murayama, frustrated, accused him of calling her foolish, but Issei shrugged off her comment and continued on his way, leaving her speechless. The next day, during recess, Issei remained in the classroom, engrossed in a book until Murayama approached him again. She insisted on speaking with him, which surprised those nearby, as it was unusual for her to seek him out. Issei closed his book and stood up, wanting to escape the noise. They walked to the rooftop, where Murayama questioned his true nature. Issei clarified that he was human, just like her, despite her disbelief. He explained that if she concentrated, she could harness the power of the earth and sky. Murayama expressed her desire to learn this skill, but Issei was reluctant to teach her, claiming he had better things to do. However, Murayama pleaded with him, stating that she wanted to become strong to help others. She knelt before him, and Issei, maintaining a neutral expression, recalled how many had sought to be his disciple in the past but had failed. Eventually, he agreed to teach her, but warned her that betrayal would lead to dire consequences. Murayama, frightened by his serious demeanor, promised not to betray him. Issei corrected her, stating she was not yet qualified to call him sensei. He instructed her to continue addressing him as usual, but if she succeeded, she might earn the title of disciple. When she inquired about his first disciple, he revealed she was far away. Issei instructed her to return after classes for basic training. Murayama hesitated, mentioning her club, but Issei insisted she choose between it and her training with him. He warned that if she did not show up, it would mean she had chosen to remain in her club. Leaving her with a difficult decision, he departed. Later, after classes, Issei awaited her on the rooftop. When she finally arrived, she admitted it had not been easy to come, but she was determined to become strong like him. Issei told her that her strength depended on her commitment. Murayama expressed concern about her friend being upset with her for leaving the club without explanation, but Issei dismissed her worries. He instructed her to sit and cross her legs, preparing her for the first step of her training. As he positioned himself behind her, he placed his hands on her sword, advising her to relax. Issei transferred some of his power to her, unlocking her potential in just a couple of minutes. He revealed that she possessed the cold shadow of the phoenix, a rare ability. Murayama felt hopeful about becoming strong. Issei handed her a book, explaining it would help her master the basics of swordsmanship. He promised that once she learned it all, she could return for the next volume. As he walked toward the door, Murayama remarked that his new attitude was much better than before. Issei paused, contemplating her words, and questioned if she had ever wondered why he had acted the way he did. The answer was obvious, not because he was a pervert. Issei mentioned that he hoped to be informed when the answer was found. He continued on his way, leaving Murayama alone to ponder his words. After a few moments, she also departed. The next day, as Issei was heading to the academy, two people took him by the hand. Elisa asked when he had returned, and Issei replied that it hadn't been long. Rosalind inquired why he hadn't called them, to which Issei explained he had been busy with some matters. Rosalind then asked where Linger was, and Issei informed them that she had returned home to attend to her responsibilities as the leader of a sect. Elisa questioned why Issei didn't have a sect of his own, and he replied that he didn't have time to train so many weak individuals. Elisa warned him that with that attitude, he wouldn't make many friends, to which Issei responded that he didn't need them. Rosalind expressed her desire for Issei to be more cheerful, stating that she didn't like his current demeanor. Issei questioned why he should listen to her, and Rosalind reminded him that they were friends, and she was giving him advice. At that moment, Murayama approached Issei, greeting him. Elisa asked who she was, and Murayama introduced herself as his student. Both girls were surprised by this revelation and looked at Issei, who remained calm. However, Rosalind grabbed Issei by the collar, demanding an explanation while shaking him. Elisa warned Rosalind that if she didn't let go, he wouldn't respond. Rosalind sighed and released him. Issei explained that Murayama had chosen to be his student. Elisa then asked why he accepted another student besides Linger, and Issei explained that Murayama had some potential, but he needed to leave as classes were about to start. Without waiting for a response, he continued on his way, followed by the three girls. In the distance, a girl with pink hair watched, annoyed by the scene, and followed them. The classes were calm, and Issei's class had a free PRD until someone stood up and approached him, placing their hands on his desk. Issei lowered his book and looked at the newcomer. Kate demanded that he stay away from her friend, accusing him of causing her to leave the club. Murayama defended Issei, stating that she had made that decision on her own. Kate insisted that it was a lie, as kendo was what Murayama loved most, and Issei had to be involved. Murayama, slightly annoyed, told Kate to stop, surprising her since she had never been angry with her before. Issei stood up, gathered his belongings, and left, with several classmates watching him go. Murayama considered leaving as well, but Kate stopped her. Issei continued on his way until someone called out to him. Kenji greeted him, saying it had been a while. Issei asked if he needed something, as he had things to do. Kenji dismissed him, claiming that just because he had a good relationship with Elisa and Rosalind, it didn't make him important. He further declared that those two would be his, so Issei should stay away from them. Issei stated that they were just acquaintances and if Kenji wanted to be with them, he wouldn't stop him. As he walked away, he evaded a punch from Kenji, who remarked that Issei wasn't as strong as he thought and needed to come down from his high horse. Issei remained silent, and Kenji, seeing his expression, grew angry and created a barrier, activating his armor as he charged at Issei. Issei sighed and summoned a sword with his power. Drasig warned him to be careful, as that sword possessed a rare power. Kenji ignored the warning and continued his attack, only to find Issei nearly cutting his arm before stopping just in time. Issei warned Kenji that this was just a warning and that if he insulted him again, he wouldn't show mercy. He considered Kenji lucky to have escaped this time and continued on his way, leaving Kenji fuming with a significant injury that began to heal slowly. Issei thought to himself that he needed to increase his cultivation and leave this place to reclaim what was rightfully his. He headed into the forest to find some peace. A week had passed since Murayama began her training, which had been challenging at first but gradually became manageable. Both Elisa and Rosalind supported her, and they started to become friends over time. Meanwhile, Issei used his limited time to meditate and improve, as he had many tasks ahead. He was at home searching online for places where he could find pure energy when he discovered a promising location in Ukraine, known for its pristine forest. He thought this place might be useful and decided it was worth the trip. He called Murayama, who was walking with her best friend, and was surprised to see who was calling. Murayama answered, and Issei informed her that they would be leaving in 2 days to explore an interesting place for improvement. When she asked where, he told her to come to his house for the details. After ending the call, she sighed. Keitase asked if something was wrong, and Murayama replied that she had things to do and would see her later, giving her a hug before rushing off, knowing Issei didn't like to wait. Minutes later, she arrived at Issei's apartment, and he let her in. Murayama asked if something was wrong, and Issei reiterated that they would be leaving in 2 days. When she pressed for details, he revealed they were going to Ukraine. Murayama was taken aback, questioning how she would explain her sudden disappearance to her parents. Issei reminded her that reaching the highest levels required sacrifices, and now it was her turn to make some. Murayama noted that he had already made sacrifices, to which Issei recounted how he had left everything behind to improve his cultivation, even losing his family in the process. Murayama asked about those he lost, and Issei shared that his parents and brother had been killed by bandits while he was training, and by the time he buried them, it was too late. Murayama inquired if he had done anything about it, and Issei admitted that he had tracked down the group and eliminated them one by one. He warned her that if she wanted to be strong and protect her loved ones, she would have to make sacrifices too. Murayama agreed to go but asked how they would get there. Issei assured her that he had everything arranged, having sold some products that had become quite popular. Murayama decided to prepare for the journey. Murayama nodded and left the room to prepare and think about what to write to her family. 2 days later, early in the morning, she was in her room looking out the window when she spotted Issei below. She grabbed a backpack, left a note on the desk, and quietly exited the house. Once outside, they began walking and, after a short distance, called a taxi to take them to the airport. Murayama expressed her surprise at not flying directly, and Issei explained that people would react strangely if they saw them flying, as most humans preferred to attack rather than investigate the unusual. Minutes later, they arrived at their destination, where Issei already had the tickets, and they boarded the plane. Hours later, upon landing, Issei wasted no time and started walking. Murayama was surprised to learn they would be traveling on foot, but Issei assured her it was part of her training. As the days passed, they walked continuously, and although Murayama felt tired, she noticed she wasn't as sleepy as usual, which puzzled her. Issei explained that as a cultivator, she wouldn't need as much sleep unless she chose to, just like with eating. Murayama found this fascinating, and they continued on their journey. After several days, they entered a forest where Issei lifted her by the waist, taking flight to reach their destination more quickly. Murayama was amazed by how different everything looked from above. Minutes later, they landed in the heart of the forest, and Issei placed his hand on the ground, smiling. He encouraged her to do the same and describe what she felt. As she followed his instructions, she experienced a warm sensation and felt her body growing stronger. Issei remarked that this place was pure and rare to find on their planet, explaining that technology often destroys the good things. Murayama asked if she could visit this place with him someday, and Issei replied that it depended on her efforts. They resumed walking and soon discovered a cave. Upon entering, Issei struck the cave wall, causing a minor collapse that sealed them inside. Murayama protested, worried they would be trapped, but Issei explained that this was necessary for her to focus on her training. He instructed her to improve her other senses and not rely solely on her sight, and when she succeeded, she could begin practicing with the sword he left at the entrance along with a book. Curious about his own plans, Murayama learned that Issei intended to absorb the chi from the forest to enhance his own abilities. She asked how long they would be in the cave, and Issei told her to focus on her training. Although she wanted to ask more questions, Issei began to walk away, and the silence encouraged her to start her training, as she was determined to grow stronger. Time passed, and she improved her senses, eventually finding Issei meditating in a lotus position. She picked up the book and noticed the sword beside it, beginning her training. Days turned into weeks and months as both trained tirelessly, and Murayama felt proud of her progress. One day, Issei opened his eyes for the first time and stood up, announcing it was time to leave. Murayama admitted she hadn't noticed the time passing. Issei explained that her dedication to training had made the time fly. As they approached the cave entrance, Issei struck the wall, and Murayama was momentarily blinded by the light. Once her eyes adjusted, she was astonished by Issei's transformation. He turned to face her, explaining that this was a normal change for a cultivator. Murayama insisted it was anything but normal, as he looked completely different. Issei sighed and began to shrink, his hair shortening as he returned to his previous appearance. He informed her that a year had passed, and although they could have stayed longer, the chi was running low, and he wanted to preserve the forest. Shocked by the revelation of how much time had passed, Murayama worried about explaining her absence to her parents. Issei suggested she simply say she had been working. When she inquired where, he replied it was for him, assuring her he would handle everything. Murayama sighed but nodded in agreement. Issei congratulated her on her achievements, and she acknowledged that while it had been difficult at first, she had succeeded. He encouraged her to use her sword to fly, and as he began to float, she smiled and followed his lead, taking to the skies with joy as the wind brushed against her face. Both young adventurers decided to return to Japan, with Murayama feeling nervous about explaining her long absence, while Issei maintained his usual indifferent demeanor. 2 hours later, they reached their destination, and Murayama asked about the plan. Issei instructed her to return home and continue her training, while he mentioned he would soon embark on another journey and did not know when he would return. Murayama expressed her well wishes for his trip, bowing respectfully, and they parted ways. Later, Issei rented an apartment to rest before his journey. He took a walk, noticing little had changed. Arriving at a familiar park, he was surprised to find it crowded. Recognizing the situation, he understood it was a wedding taking place. When someone told him to leave, he turned around but accidentally bumped into someone, causing her to fall. Rosalind was taken aback upon recognizing him, expressing her shock at seeing him alive after a year of searching for him. Issei explained he had been busy, and Rosalind urged him not to mention the wedding of Elisa. Issei raised an eyebrow at this, prompting Rosalind to cover her mouth. He wished Elisa well and hoped she and her brother would have a good life together. Rosalind expressed her concern about Issei knowing her brother. Issei mentioned it was just a guess but was relieved it wasn't someone else. Rosalind pointed out that Ruvel was kinder and didn't care much about status. Issei decided to leave, prompting Rosalind to question why he was going. He explained he needed to train, which led Rosalind to feel that training was more important to him than their relationship. Issei reminded her that he had helped Elisa, and they were even. Rosalind hesitated, but Issei noted that he could sense she had a partner as well, her energy revealing it. Upon hearing this, Rosalind looked down. Issei continued, stating they came from different worlds and he had matters to resolve in his own. He suggested they might meet again in the future as he began to walk away. Rosalind called him a coward for not fighting for them, to which Issei replied that he shouldn't have to fight for someone who didn't wait for him even a year, implying they were in a hurry. Issei compared their situation to Lingya, who had waited for thousands of years to become a leader and express her feelings. He felt that while she had to struggle, they had everything handed to them and chose the easy path. He wanted to end the conversation on good terms, but it had turned out differently. As he began to levitate and then flew away at great speed, Rosalind was left in tears over everything that had happened. Issei hoped he wouldn't return to that place for a long time. He opened a portal, feeling that his current cultivation was enough to take him home. As he crossed through, he felt increasing pain, which left him with some injuries. Upon exiting the portal, he collapsed, his clothes torn and several scars visible. He barely heard a voice but couldn't identify who it was due to his exhaustion. Some time later, Issei woke up, noticing his hair had grown long again. He realized he had returned to his true appearance. Sitting up in bed, he assumed a lotus position to heal, sensing the purity of the place. The doors opened, and he saw a girl with chestnut hair. She asked if he was feeling better, and he thanked her for her help. She inquired about his condition, and Issei explained he had battled some creatures while escaping. She expressed her sympathy for his situation, and Issei assured her not to worry. He then asked how long he had been unconscious, learning it had been about a week and that he had been in bad shape. Grateful, he got out of bed, ready to train and explore his surroundings. The girl advised him not to exert himself since he was low on energy and suggested he eat something. Issei wondered why she was helping him since they didn't know each other. She explained she could tell he was a good person. He promised to repay her kindness, but she told him not to worry about it and that she had to return to work. Before she left, he asked for her name, and she introduced herself as Na Lan Meng, offering a smile before departing. Issei nodded and lay back on the bed, contemplating his current situation. Days later, he ventured out to explore the village with Lan Meng, feeling comfortable in the environment. She asked if he had healed completely, and he confirmed he felt much better. Just then, someone interrupted them, questioning who the commoner was beside her and reminding Lan Meng of their engagement. She clarified that she hadn't accepted the engagement and glanced at Issei, asserting she had been seeing him for some time. The other person, Liu Tang, was incredulous that she would associate with someone like Issei. Issei confronted Liu Tang, warning him not to intimidate his wife or there would be consequences. Hearing the word wife made Lan Meng blush with embarrassment. Liu Tang threatened Issei, who dismissed him as insignificant. When Liu Tang lunged at him, Issei easily dodged, sending him crashing into a nearby stall. Issei took Lan Meng by the waist, pulling her close, and warned Liu Tang to stay away from his wife, promising that next time, he wouldn't hold back. He left the scene, leaving the onlookers astonished by what had just occurred. After arriving at his new destination, Issei focused on recovering his cultivation, pleased to find the abundant qi in the area helped him heal quickly. Meanwhile, Lan Meng was still blushing from how Issei had defended her, reflecting on how he had gotten into trouble because of her. She was pulled from her thoughts when Issei called her name, saying he was going for a walk to find some things and asked if she wanted anything. She declined and he set off, appreciating the pleasant atmosphere around him. Issei thought to himself that he would grow strong again and see his true family. He reached a market stall, looking around but not finding anything of interest. He asked where he could find magical tools, and a stranger informed him of a good merchant who sold such items, even mentioning that they could purchase slaves, noting that demon foxes were quite popular. The stranger suggested that Issei could buy one to satisfy his desires, guiding him to the merchant. Upon arrival, Issei noticed many slaves but didn't dwell on it, as it was common in places he visited. While looking around, he spotted someone who caught his attention. He asked who she was, and the stranger revealed that she had been found abandoned in the desert and was likely to die soon. Issei wanted to sell her, but no one was interested in buying. He realized he needed an assistant, and she would be perfect for the role. As he approached the gate to get a better look at the gray-haired girl, she opened her eyes with the little strength she had left. After the transaction, they went to a more secluded place where Issei offered her a pill. He instructed her to take it, and she responded with a hint of sarcasm, acknowledging his intention to find a test subject. Issei insisted she follow his instructions. As she consumed the pill, she was astonished to find her wounds healing. She questioned how it was possible, but Issei merely extended his hand toward her. Just as she was about to take it, a boy shouted, warning Issei to stay away from her. Issei confronted the boy, asking who he was to give orders. The boy introduced himself as Yi Qiong and insisted he wouldn't allow Issei to harm the girl. The girl defended Issei, stating he had saved her and healed her wounds. Yi Qiong accused Issei of brainwashing her, but before he could act, Issei evaded his attack and knocked him to the ground. Issei told Yi Qiong to leave, and although the boy was frustrated, he noticed onlookers and decided to retreat. The girl expressed concern over the confrontation, but Issei reassured her, telling her not to worry. He asked for her name, and she admitted she didn't have one. Understanding her situation, Issei decided to give her a name, Jun Shui. He placed a hand on her head, and she was surprised yet happy. She expressed her gratitude for the beautiful name. Issei requested she not call him master, but Jun Shui insisted he was her master since he had purchased her. Issei saw potential in her and believed someone with her abilities deserved respect. Jun Shui was thrilled to hear he thought she had potential, and Issei encouraged her to train hard. She wondered how she could repay his kindness, and he told her she was now part of his family. Jun Shui whispered to herself about taking his surname, but Issei asked if she had said something. She quickly changed the subject, asking how to address him. He told her she would be his younger sister and promised that no one would hurt her again. Jun Shui vowed to do her best to support her older brother. As they walked, Issei explained aspects of her training, and Jun Shui listened intently, eager to become strong for him. When they encountered Lang Meng, Issei introduced Jun Shui as his little sister. Jun Shui greeted Lang Meng, who offered her assistance if needed. Issei mentioned he would stay for 2 more days, not wanting to be a burden. Lang Meng reassured him that having more people in the house was welcome. Issei sensed Lang Meng's sadness and decided to extend his stay, which made her smile. Jun Shui praised her older brother, and when she asked if he had any apprentices, Issei mentioned he had 2, one of whom no longer needed his help due to her strength. Jun Shui expressed her desire to become equally strong, and Issei affirmed she could achieve that, advising her to always hold her head high and never lower her gaze. She promised not to tarnish his name and was eager to begin training. They moved to a quieter area to train, and after an intense session, Jun Shui went to take a bath while Issei continued his cultivation. Later, as he prepared to take a bath himself, he opened the door and was surprised to see Jun Shui emerging from the tub. She reassured him that since he had saved her life, she didn't mind him seeing her. Issei left the room, and when Jun Shui was dressed, she felt a bit shy about their earlier encounter. She declared she would do anything for him, and he offered her some fruit to help improve her health. She accepted it and was pleasantly surprised by its taste. Issei advised her to rest as they had a long day ahead. With a smile, Jun Shui agreed and headed to her room. Meanwhile, Issei climbed to the roof to gaze at the stars, raising his hand in determination. He vowed to return and destroy anyone who had taken from him. Days passed, and Issei focused on training Jun Shui and Lang Meng in swordsmanship during the day, while he dedicated his nights to furthering his own cultivation. Many admired Jun Shui, but in the end, they lacked the courage to approach her, largely due to Li Siyu and Issei. It was a typical morning, and a week had passed since Jun Shui arrived at the house. Issei had a mission for her. He instructed her to return to her homeland and train. Jun Shui expressed her reluctance to be away from him, but Issei insisted that she could only improve in her own territory. She worried that it might take years, but Issei reminded her that individuals like them needed to practice diligently to reach great heights. Understanding the importance of his words, Jun Shui promised to do her best. With a serious expression that pleased Issei, she gathered her belongings and hugged both Li Siyu and Issei before setting off. Issei then handed Li Siyu a pill, encouraging her to train as well. After he returned to his room to begin his reclusion, Li Siyu contemplated the pill for a moment before nodding to herself and heading to her own room to start her cultivation. Time passed quickly for those outside. Issei remained in a lotus position with his eyes closed, seeking a way to advance. Li Siyu trained with her sword and helped the village with her new skills, proud of her significant progress. 3 years later, Issei suddenly opened his eyes, having broken through to a higher level. He realized it had taken longer than he expected, but it was worth it in the end. Clenching his fist, he stood up and left his room. As he walked through the halls, he encountered Li Siyu. Without hesitation, she rushed to him and embraced him, having missed him greatly. She expressed her happiness at his success, and he acknowledged it. Li Siyu offered to bring him something to eat, but Issei explained he had something to do and didn't know how long he would be gone. Concerned, Li Siyu asked if he was leaving so soon. Issei revealed that something was happening that he needed to resolve. Before he departed, Li Siyu requested a favor. Taking his hand, she led him to her room. There, she expressed her desire to be his wife, just as he had mentioned before. Issei warned her that being with him could bring many challenges, but she insisted she was ready. She removed part of her armor and clothing, leaving only her undergarments, and took his hand to go to the bed. The next morning, Issei sat on the bed, looking at Li Siyu with a happy expression. With a smile, he got dressed, preparing to return to his world, as something urgent was unfolding. This time, it didn't take long for him to reach his destination, where he found himself on a battlefield witnessing many fighting against a multi-headed beast. Murayama called out to him, and Issei looked down to see the brown-haired girl smiling at him. He narrowed his eyes but decided to remain silent for the moment. He inquired about the situation, and Murayama informed him that it was the apocalypse beast, the Triexa, which was incredibly strong, prompting many factions to unite against it. Issei questioned what she had been doing all this time, expecting her to have reached a higher level. Marayama hesitated, and Issei suggested she not explain further. Issei had come because he sensed something was happening, but it didn't seem like a big deal. Marayama questioned whether he would stop it, to which Issei simply shook his head, raising his gaze to the sky before closing his eyes. In a very cold place, a woman with blue hair sat on her throne, feeling Issei's energy and sensing his call. Junshui wasted no time and headed toward Issei with joy, eager to see him again after a long time. Elisa greeted Issei, expressing how long it had been. Issei remarked that things were not going well. Elisa conveyed her sympathy, sharing that Rosalind had told her about the situation. Issei reassured her that they helped each other and that he didn't need explanations. Kenji, feeling irritated, confronted Issei, calling him a nuisance. Issei chose to remain silent, which only fueled Kenji's anger. Kenji threatened to kill Issei, charging at him, but suddenly halted, feeling an overwhelming chill wash over him, reminiscent of the battlefield. Junshui stepped forward, asserting her protection over Issei. Everyone was taken aback, especially Marayama, who was stunned to hear Junshui refer to Issei as her master. Junshui approached Issei and performed a small bow, stating that she had heard her older brother's wishes. Issei acknowledged her progress over the years, expressing his happiness and playfully patting her head, which delighted the queen. However, he shifted the focus, wanting to see her true capabilities. Junshui declared her readiness, and Issei instructed her to defeat the creature claiming to be a dragon. The demon queen assessed the tri-headed beast before nodding at her master and launching into the attack. Elisa warned that the beast of the apocalypse was formidable and that Junshui might not be able to handle it alone. Issei simply looked at his younger sister, shocking everyone with her immense power as she swiftly severed one of the dragon's heads with a single strike. Junshui proclaimed that the beast was unworthy to oppose her brother and urged it to accept its fate. Those watching the battle knew they had to act quickly, hoping to convince her to join their faction. The tri-headed beast fought fiercely, but its efforts were futile, as every attack was effortlessly countered. Desperate, the beast attempted to flee, but Junshui would not allow it. She bid farewell, conjuring a blizzard that enveloped the dragon, causing it to vanish in a flurry of snowflakes. Junshui returned to Issei, smiling at her accomplishment. Issei commended her performance, saying it wasn't too bad. Junshui thanked him, calling him her older brother. Issei then addressed Marayama, reminding her that she was not meant to join a group. Hearing this, she swallowed hard, fearing she would not measure up. Issei pointed out that she had committed a grave sin against the immortals by tarnishing his name by aligning herself with another master. Marayama pleaded for forgiveness, expressing her desire to become stronger. Issei acknowledged her progress but noted that she had relied on abilities that were not her own. Junshui, who had trained diligently and overcome many challenges, called Marayama a disgrace. Issei decided not to kill her but insisted there would be consequences. He signaled to Junshui, who nodded and approached Marayama, delivering several strikes that shattered her roots. Issei warned her that she would never be able to cultivate again and that she should be grateful to still be alive, with a bit of power remaining. He turned away, leaving her to contemplate her fate. Issei was about to leave when two people stepped in front of him, Elisa and Rosalind. They wanted to know where he had been all this time. Issei told them that everything was over. Rosalind reminded him that they were good friends and questioned his behavior. Issei expressed his frustration, stating that he had things to do and no time to play around. Elisa hesitated, but Issei decided it was best to leave. As he turned to go, Elisa reached out, but Junshui intervened, pushing her hand away. Junshui declared that they should not bother her older brother and that they should feel honored to be alive. Rosalind insisted that they only wanted to talk as friends, reminding Issei that he had shared his greatest secret with them. Issei instructed Junshui on what to do, and she understood him perfectly. Without warning, Junshui placed her hand on the heads of both women, erasing parts of their memories amidst their cries. Serorg rushed toward Junshui, demanding she not touch his sister. In response, Junshui created a wall of ice that Serorg could not break through. Ruval attempted to assist his wife and sister, but to his surprise, his powers were ineffective. Soon, both women collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Jun Shui remarked that her older brother had a big heart for letting them live and that they should be grateful. She turned to follow Issei, but they were stopped again. Issei, now weary, was ready to take drastic action against them, but Jun Shui stepped forward and bowed respectfully. She explained that she wished to handle the situation herself, not wanting him to stain his hands with dirty blood. Hearing this, Issei stepped closer and placed his hand on his younger sister's head, entrusting her with the task before leaving swiftly. Kenji, frustrated, confronted Jun Shui, accusing her of being the one who had been bothering Issei. Jun Shui retorted that he was nothing but a fool, believing he was strong just because he had a lizard by his side. She expressed her disdain for those who felt invincible due to their power, especially those who betrayed those who had helped them. Her serious gaze fell on Murayama, who averted her eyes. Angered, Kenji activated his armor and charged at Jun Shui, but she unleashed a portion of her power, sending him flying with just her aura. Everyone witnessed the immense strength of the queen, which surpassed that of many present. Grand Red commented on her power, realizing how she had easily defeated Triexa. Jun Shui then launched herself at Kenji, striking him and shattering his armor, along with some of his bones. The other young warriors rushed in to help, but their interference only fueled Jun Shui's fury. Jun Shui scolded them for using techniques that belonged to her older brother. She quickly confronted Murayama, grabbing her by the neck and preparing to strike her face. Murayama attempted to free herself, but it was futile. She took the hit directly, losing some teeth and falling unconscious. Surzek urged for a truce, stating they did not want more wars. Odin echoed his sentiment, emphasizing that they had just emerged from one and did not wish for more deaths among the young. Jun Shui warned them to stop bothering her older brother, as he only needed one more reason to destroy the place. Michael pleaded with her not to say such things. Jun Shui declared that if her brother desired the world's destruction, she would gladly assist him, as it was her duty to obey her master. Azazel suggested they reach an agreement to end the conflict. Jun Shui agreed, and the leaders felt relieved, but their smiles faded when they saw her grab Kenji by the arm. Kenji asked what she intended to do, but before he could react, Jun Shui used her other hand to tear his arm away, causing him to scream in pain. She dropped him, and he wept from the agony. Rias rushed to Kenji with a phoenix tear, but to her shock, it had no effect. She questioned Jun Shui about what she had done. Jun Shui explained that her brother had told her that Kenji had harmed his dragon arm, and such an offense could not be forgiven. Rias protested that it was extreme, but Jun Shui insisted he should be grateful to still be alive. As she began to levitate and depart, many were left with questions, the most pressing being the source of her immense power. When she reached her destination, she found Issei standing with his arms crossed, his long hair blowing in the wind. Jun Shui informed him that she had finished her task. Issei asked if she felt better now, to which she replied that he was very kind for not just killing them. Issei noted how much she had changed over time. Jun Shui apologized for her earlier words, and Issei reassured her that she had done well. She transformed back into her human form and smiled at him, asking if he could show her more of this strange world. Issei agreed, and she expressed her concern about the lack of chi in the area, noting the strange noises around them. He explained that most humans had been destroying the place, and soon it would lose all its energy and vanish. Jun Shui understood but wanted to know why he had returned. Issei admitted that a part of him still wanted this place, and for that reason, he would create a new home. She declared her intention to follow him wherever he went, but inquired about their older sister. Issei explained that she needed to train and would come one day. Jun Shui expressed her excitement and hope that their sister would accept her, despite her perceived weakness. Issei reassured her, and they began to walk, with Jun Shui following closely behind. Meanwhile, the leaders gathered to discuss their next steps, having witnessed Jun Shui's departure. But that's how things are. Not many humans reveal their identity, and the few who do belong to my home. Azazel found it interesting. Yu Huang noted that the girl named Murayama was a cultivator, and her master was that person. Surzek mentioned that his name was Issei, the brother of Kenji, the security eye. Yu Huang speculated that he must have someone strong by his side. Zeus questioned what they would do with that boy. Odin suggested that they observe him for now. Yasaka added that 2 of her people were following him from a distance. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, Jun Shui looked around in amazement at the buildings, vehicles, and ordinary people. Some men stared at her in awe of her beauty. She expressed to her older brother that it was incredible, though very noisy. Issei reassured her that she would adapt over time. Jun Shui observed that he had already adapted long ago. Issei suggested they do something, as it was her reward for winning. Jun Shui dismissed the previous threat, saying that the beast was nothing, and those children were easily led by their instincts. Issei acknowledged that even so, she should be cautious. Curious, Jun Shui asked why 2 girls wouldn't leave him alone. Issei led her to a cafe, ordering a coffee for himself and juice for her, as she wouldn't like coffee. He explained that one girl was named Elisa and the other Rosalind, whom he had met by chance. Jun Shui wanted to know more, and Issei shared that both had been friends since childhood. He mentioned that Rosalind had the power of a phoenix, though her affinity was weak. With some training, she could go far, but she wasn't interested. Jun Shui called her foolish. Issei recounted how he had helped Elisa's mother, who in turn helped him acquire some ingredients. He then trained Murayama, who had an interesting physique, but things had not ended well. Jun Shui remarked on the fame that often corrupted people, and Issei noted that with a bit of power, people believed themselves invincible, unaware of the stronger beings beyond their world. Jun Shui insisted that betrayal was unforgivable and that she should have eliminated Murayama. Issei advised her against getting her hands dirty. Curious about their next steps, Jun Shui expressed her desire to follow him wherever he went, having trained hard to stay by his side. Issei reminded her that she had people waiting for her. Jun Shui explained that she had left someone in charge and made a promise to return, smiling as Issei patted her head, which brought her joy. Jun Shui then asked what they would do about the people watching them. Issei explained that the leaders of this place liked to keep those who could cause problems under control. Jun Shui suggested eliminating them, but Issei lightly tapped her forehead, reminding her that not everything could be resolved with violence. He stood up and instructed her to follow him as they left the cafe, appearing behind the 2 yokai. Issei requested to be taken to their leaders, smiling as they shuddered. Later, the leaders were engaged in their discussions when the doors opened, and Issei and Jun Shui entered. Issei assumed they wanted to speak with him and took a seat, while Jun Shui stood behind him with a serious expression. Michael thanked Issei for his help, to which Issei replied that he was merely passing through. Yu Huang inquired about his training and who had taught him. Issei got straight to the point, stating that he intended to create his own territory and did not wish to be disturbed. Surzek asked for his motives, and Issei clarified that if they did not interfere with his affairs, he would not cause trouble, but if they did, it would likely lead to a new war. Ra, filled with fury, challenged Issei's audacity to threaten them. Jun Shui defended her brother, encasing Ra's arm in ice to escalate the situation, her expression serious. Issei urged her to calm down. Azazel suggested forming an alliance, but Issei dismissed the idea, stating they would be more of a hindrance than a help, and none were qualified to assist him. Yu Huang offered to introduce him to some with great abilities, but Issei declined, stating he was in no rush to find new apprentices. He stood up, indicating he would leave if that was all. As he walked through the halls, he encountered a group of people. Elisa called out to him, but Issei told her to continue with her life. Serorg expressed that he could not forgive Issei for what had happened. Issei brushed off his concerns, while Kenji threatened him, to which Jun Shui playfully suggested he might lose another arm, causing further annoyance to the young man. Rosalind proposed they could be friends again, but Issei firmly stated he never considered them friends, continuing on his way and leaving the 2 women in shock. Murayama attempted to speak, but Jun Shui interrupted, asserting that she had no right to address Issei that way. Jun Shui told Murayama to leave, declaring she was not worthy. She then hurried to catch up with Issei, who was already weary. Yu Huang approached Murayama, recognizing her talent and inviting her to train with him. Murayama hesitated, saying she could no longer train with Issei, but Yu Huang assured her they could help her. Seeing Rias nod in agreement, Murayama accepted the offer, kneeling in gratitude before leaving with her new leader. In her thoughts, she vowed to prove her worthiness to be Issei's student and to become stronger than Jun Shui, hoping to be accepted back by Issei. Issei remarked to Jun Shui that this would be their new home, envisioning it filled with people training over time. He noticed a vast field and began to create a barrier. To be continued. A week had passed since Issei and his companions settled into their new home, and construction was underway. Meanwhile, the young ones trained harder than ever, especially Murayama, who wanted to prove her worth to Issei. Some leaders searched for Issei to gauge his next moves, but they could not find him. One night, Issei sat on a rock, gazing at his new home. Jun Shui commented that it was large, and Issei expressed that one day it would be full, asking if she didn't want more people around. She eagerly agreed, excited about being the older sister to everyone. Issei affirmed that she was strong enough to train them. Jun Shui understood and prepared to seek new disciples, responding enthusiastically to Issei's instruction to disguise her appearance to avoid drawing attention. It would help you hide your identity. Jun Shui expressed gratitude and said they would see each other later, leaving the sect without knowing when she would return. Issei sat in a lotus position for a few more minutes, focusing on his training. 2 days later, he decided to leave the sect, mainly to take a walk. Upon arriving in the city, he observed people enjoying their lives without a care. He thought about how there were moments he wished he could have a peaceful life like theirs. Continuing his walk, he reached a comic store and reflected that one was never too old to enjoy such things. As he wandered the aisles, he reached for a comic, but someone else grabbed it first. He noticed a serious expression on the person who took it. The stranger introduced herself as Sikveria Agars. Issei acknowledged her as a demon but admitted he had no idea who she was. Sikveria informed him that the leaders were looking for him and that everyone knew what had happened when he defeated Triexa. Issei clarified that it was his apprentice who had done the defeating. Sikveria insisted that it didn't matter. Issei suggested they speak in a more private location, wanting to verify something important. Sikveria agreed to follow him. They left the store and walked through the streets in silence until they reached a park, where they created a barrier. Sikveria asked what he had to say. Issei questioned her trust in him, to which she replied no. He then requested her hand, and despite her neutral expression, she extended it to him. For the first time, Issei showed a look of astonishment. Sikveria asked what was happening, and Issei explained that she possessed a rare constitution. When she questioned what he meant, he revealed that she had the potential to cultivate. Sikveria was skeptical, stating that only humans could cultivate, as she had learned from the gods of China. Issei corrected her, saying she had a sacred body of the crystal lotus, which represented purity and absolute balance, a perfect vessel for spiritual control. He shared tales of a cultivator who survived a 1,000-day battle without a single wound, thanks to the power of the lotus. Sikveria found it hard to believe, but Issei insisted that in the universe, anything was possible. He proposed taking her as his disciple, but she declined, stating she already had a home and wouldn't abandon her family. Issei understood but asked her to contact him if she changed her mind, handing her a card with his number. She accepted it and left for home, while Issei hoped she would reconsider. Later, in the underworld, Sikveria entered her house and heard familiar laughter. She walked to the living room to find her childhood friends gathered. They expressed their surprise at her return, and Rias mentioned her upcoming wedding, inviting Sikveria. Sikveria reminded them that she preferred not to have unannounced visits. Latia brought up the upcoming Azazel Cup tournament and asked if she would participate. Sikveria dismissed it as pointless. Sona warned her that if she didn't increase her family's power, she could lose her rank. Sikveria insisted that wasn't possible, but Rias pointed out that other families were rising in status. They urged her to place in the top 10 of the next tournament to maintain her reputation. Sikveria acknowledged their point, realizing that if she didn't qualify, they wouldn't speak to her again. She asked them to leave, and they complied, exiting the room. Once alone, Sikveria sighed and took a seat on the sofa. She heard footsteps and looked up to see her father with a serious expression. He assumed she had heard the news. Sikveria mentioned she had planned to share it herself. Her father reminded her of the heavy burden she now carried and asked what she would do. She vowed to think of something and not let their family name collapse. He acknowledged the changing times and their diminishing power, assuring her not to worry. Sikveria then mentioned there was a way for her to become stronger. Meanwhile, Issei was meditating and successfully separated his soul from his physical body. He felt accomplished and decided it was time to visit Linge, his first disciple. He smiled at the thought. In a cabin, Linge was meditating when she sensed a familiar aura nearby. She opened her eyes and stood up, recognizing her master's silhouette. Linge expressed her joy at his progress, and Issei noted that his time was limited. She asked what he needed from her, and he informed her that he had created his own sect. Linge congratulated him and promised to be there. Issei invited her to come whenever she wished, and she smiled at his warmth before he began to fade away. He encouraged her to continue with her own path. Later, Issei opened his eyes, stretched, and stood up. He realized it had taken longer than he expected. Hearing his phone ring, he answered a call from Sikveria, who requested to meet. They agreed to meet in an hour at the park. Issei wondered what had caused her change of heart but decided it was pointless to dwell on it. He would soon find out. He began walking toward his destination, preferring to take his time rather than arrive instantly. Eventually, Issei arrived at the park, where he found Sikveria sitting on a bench with her usual serious expression. Without speaking, he sat beside her and offered her a cup of coffee. They shared a moment of silence until Sikveria broke it, stating that the proposal was still on the table. Issei prepared to respond, knowing the conversation was just beginning. Sikveria inquired about Issei's knowledge of demon races. Issei mentioned that he had studied them thanks to certain books given to him. Sikveria noted that he must be aware of their ranks, particularly the importance of the Baal and Agar's houses, hinting at her own family ties. She explained that many changes had occurred since Rias's situation, with some young demons gaining more power, but her circumstances were different. Issei acknowledged her intelligence and skills, expressing admiration for her unique attitude and the great power within her. Sikveria then got to the point, indicating she knew why she was there. Issei confirmed her understanding and stated that nothing comes for free. He stood up and tossed a talisman into the air, creating a barrier. He explained that she must pledge her loyalty to him. Sikveria was curious if that was all, and Issei clarified that if she became his disciple, she would need to respect him and follow his orders without question. She realized this meant she would have to give up many things, particularly her ties to her race, although she could still protect her home. Issei extended his hand seriously and asked if she was willing to renounce her race and join him. Sikveria hesitated, thinking about her family. Issei reassured her that she could tell them to live normal lives in the human world, promising that he would ensure their safety. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Sikveria knelt and pledged her life to follow her master's words without question. Issei admired her resolve, confident she would not take the same path as Murayama. He took her hand and led her to her new home, where Junshui waited. Junshui was pleased to see Issei return but was slightly taken aback by Sikveria's presence. Issei introduced Sikveria as his new younger sister. He instructed Junshui to prepare for Sikveria's purification process, which was necessary for her cultivation. Junshui assured Sikveria that it would be painless, taking her hand despite her protests. Later, both girls approached Issei, with Sikveria expressing discomfort about the revealing clothing she had been given. Junshui explained that it was specialized attire meant for combat and was durable, complimenting how it suited Sikveria. She accepted the compliment with a hint of embarrassment. As Issei turned to reveal his true form, his hair grew longer, leaving Sikveria in awe of the transformation. Issei then asked why she had chosen to accept her new role within the sect. Sikveria explained that there was a tournament held periodically, where anyone could participate, and the winner would receive a favor from all the leaders. She intended to compete to elevate her family's name. Issei inquired about the tournament's timing, and Sikveria informed him it would take place in less than a month. He decided that she and Jun Shui would represent their sect in the competition. Issei reassured her that she would succeed, promising to help her train alongside her sisters. Jun Shui expressed excitement about meeting their older sister, who would be joining them. Issei instructed Sikvera to sit down and relax her body and mind as they prepared to begin their training. The story would continue,